what's up? It's your boy Rawk.
The war will never truly end. The suffering shall never be over. Many remain relatively unscathed, sure, but many more have been folded, others flattened. Only one thing is definite in this war.
I fucking suck at origami. The Paper Mario series has been through a lot, and by extension, its fans have been through a lot. The first two games are held in the highest regards by many a fan, the shining examples of how paper-based RPGs are done. The third game, Super Paper Mario, was quite a divisive follow-up, being a platformer with RPG elements and an Oscar-worthy story. And then, well, these two games happened, and the community still hasn't recovered from them. The Paper Mario fanbase was in tatters after the release of the last two games, with many people being strongly against the new ones and in support of the old, and many people firmly on the other side of the fence. It's been impossible to stumble across a civil conversation surrounding the series for what feels like forever at this point, and that's honestly really disappointing. There's been so much discourse surrounding the series that Nintendo must have noticed, right? They must have done something, right? Paper Mario The Origami King released on July 17th, 2020, and a hell of a lot was riding on this game. Right from the first trailer, we could tell that this game was something different compared to Sticker Star and Color Splash. The tone seemed darker with the music and the creepy fucking Peach. It was really quite ominous. This game seemed to have a story at all, which was very promising, but that was pretty much all there was to discern from the first trailer. Later, Nintendo would reveal the more open structure of the game, as well as the bosses and the return of partners. Kind of. That was it in terms of a build up to release. The game was revealed in May and released 2 months later. But hey, I'm not complaining about this. The sudden reveal and quick release led to only a few weeks of actively giving a shit, which I much prefer to a year and a half. Jesus Christ, Animal Crossing! The previous two games certainly ruffled a few feathers. They were generic, stripped down shadows of the previous heights of the series. But Origami King seemed to be changing that. After how controversial Sticker Star and Color Splash were, I had high hopes for this game, and after beating it, I can officially say that this game is fan-fucking-tastic. Now, before we get into the story of the game, yes, I am more than aware of the infamous interviews that were circulating around the game's release, wherein director Kensuke Tanabe said some pretty worrying things about the game. What he discussed included, but was far from limited to, the fact that his team had strict creative restraints put on them during the creation process of the game. Many fans were outraged by these interviews, and used this to fuel the flames of hatred being lobbed at the game. Look, I'm with you on a lot of that. Being forced to hold back creatively at all is absolutely absurd, but even despite these limitations, we still have a really good plot here, even if it is fairly derivative of the most simple mainline games. I'm going to look at this game without taking those interviews into account, and review it based entirely on its own merits. We open on Paper Mario. Holy shit! And Paper Luigi on their way to Toad Town to take part in the almighty Origami Festival, and they're travelling via Luigi's car. I can't help but think that might not be a good idea given his track record. When they arrive, the entire town is inexplicably deserted. The bros roam around every nook and cranny before heading to Peach's castle to investigate. Upon entering the castle, they get locked in, and Luigi, very heroically, decides to run away from the only person that he currently knows is alive and well. I'm sure he'll be fine. Mario is confronted by an eerie voice. Holy shit, Peach got buff! Hell yeah, this is the most beneficial cult I've ever been a part of! The whole intro sequence here is incredibly eerie, the music is ominous, and this is all capped off by us watching Bowser and his minions being essentially tortured. The castle dungeon is where we meet our partner for this adventure, Olivia, and man, I love her. but more on that later. Olivia introduces us to the Thousandfold Arms ability, which we use to escape our cell. For the longest time, I thought this move required motion controls, but thankfully you can turn them off. Let it be known though that you can keep them on if you want to keep that sweet, sweet immersion.
Wow, it feels like I'm really punching a tree! I would know!
We save Bowser and we head to the top of the castle. Here we're confronted by Origami Peach and a squad of folded soldiers, and we're introduced to the battle system.
Oh boy, the battle system. The element of the game that's most likely to make people break out into fights. Here, watch. I like the battle system. It's time to die, motherfucker.
The battle system here sees Mario in the middle of a ring, where enemies are positioned around the outside. You're able to manipulate the rings in order to line up enemies however you see fit, and from here you do your attacks. Certain layouts yield better results for different weapons. You see 4 enemies in a straight line, crush their skulls under your feet! You see 4 enemies in a group like this, cave their skulls in with a little more pizzazz! Lining enemies up quote-unquote perfectly increases your attack power, which is a nice incentive to pay attention to these battles and try to figure out the puzzles they present. There's definitely more to say about this system, and trust me, we'll get to that. But for now, I have one very slight gripe. While the whole ring system is incredibly unique and fun, it feels a bit odd. Like, there's no story context for the ring. There's no explanation for it. It's just, you're in a ring. Deal with it, bitch. This is extremely nitpicky. But it would be fun to see this play into the story, or just explain it all, really. Anyway, we defeat our first foes, and we're introduced to our villain, the Origami King.
Shit, I never would have guessed!
Here we have Ollie, the older brother of Olivia, who plans to turn the entire world of paper into origami.
That son of a bitch!
Before you know it, 5 streamers come flying in from the 5 corners of the Mushroom Kingdom, and the castle is ripped from the ground and taken away. This scene is genuinely so cool. The camera is so dynamic and the tension feels genuinely high, to the extent that this feels like a scene from an action film. Something I definitely did not expect from Paper Mario, but something that I am absolutely down for.
You've gone too far now, you evil bastard!
Oh no, fuck! We plummet from the sky into the Whispering Woods, where we gain the ability to collect and regurgitate confetti, which is the main overworld gimmick in this game. You see littered absolutely everywhere in this game are these non-bottomless pits. Great name, guys, really raises the tension. And in order to fill them and progress, we need to... This is incredibly satisfying, man. The way Mario hoovers up all of the confetti on the ground, the sound design when picking up and throwing it, and the way it falls. Oh, it's so good. Anyway, the trees keep whispering to us and we're peer pressured into finding the soul seed, which we give to this old tree, causing him to... well...
How can you dare to not love this game?
The plot from here on out basically consists of us travelling through the 5 different regions of the map in order to knock out the 5 gods of the streamer ends.
But before we get into that, let it be known that Paper Mario the Origami King is more of a Zelda game than Breath of the Wild. That's not a joke.
Throughout the game we stumble across the Velumental Temples, which are literally traditional Zelda dungeons in a Paper Mario game. These things are fairly long, nothing that'll take you hours and hours to beat, but definitely something that'll get you scratching your head every now and then. And at the end of the 4 temples, we fight the 4 Velumentals, elemental beings that can be hard as fuck to defeat. The boss fights in this game work very differently to the regular fights, as instead of us being in the middle of the ring, the boss is, and we have to form a path to them from the tiles available inside the ring. This is an incredibly interesting concept, especially because a lot of the times the panels you need will be locked in a chest, and other times the panels to use special abilities like the Thousandfold Arms need to be activated using a separate panel. I'll be completely honest, this can be annoying sometimes. When you just want to attack the thing and you have to spend a whole turn just to have access to the attack panels, but in my opinion, it adds a lot of strategy to the puzzle portion of the battles, and is a really unique and fun aspect of the game's battle system. We fight 11 main bosses in this format, and they're all pretty damn challenging, especially the later few. They all have their unique gimmicks that relate to their character, so we should probably talk about them all. There's the Earth Velumental, who's a fucking turtle. There's the Water Velumental and Fire Velumental, but don't lie, this is just Articuno and Moltres made out of paper. And the final of the Velumentals is the Ice Velumental, who is basically just paper Beartick.
The designers had creative limitations put on them, so they just stole ideas from Zelda and Pokemon, and they wonder why the community's in fucking shambles.
The 4 Velumentals have their own temples, as I mentioned earlier, and beating the temple and the Velumental in question gives you their ability to use both in the overworld and in battles. Now they aren't available to use at your free will. Instead, much like with the Thousandfold Arms, They are available at specific points with a specific prompt, but that doesn't matter, because these things are absolutely fucking spectacular to witness. They're so visually stunning, so grandiose, and honestly just a joy to behold, especially the water elemental ability. The water looks so crisp and I want to drink this until I'm way overhydrated. The earth elemental allows you to raise and lower the ground to your will. The water elemental allows you to fill gaps with raging water. The fire elemental allows you to cause forest fires, and the ice elemental allows you to freeze bodies of water. There are absolutely no surprises here, stop dreaming.
No!
The rest of the bosses are linked directly to the rest of the story, each falling at the end of their respective chapter, so let's talk about each because we have some really good shit here. Chapter 1 sees us trying to destroy the red streamer, and to do so, we head to Picnic Road, where we find a group of misfit Koopas who are up in a frenzy because they can't get to their place of worship, the Earth Elemental Temple. We beat the temple and make our way to the Overlook Tower, where we meet the first of many of Ollie's underlings, coloured pencils.
We'll talk about this in a bit, but yes, stationery is the main antagonistic force of this game. Oh boy.
The pencils are missiles, and this is an incredibly fun fight, especially seeing as it's the first main one in the game. The gimmick for this battle is that there are homing missiles aimed for random squares on the board, and running over them will cause them to be launched at you, so you need to be extra strategic as to avoid getting blown to shit. The build up to this fight is also really interesting, as we're stuck in a tower where the only way is up, but the missile pencils have torn holes in anything that dares to be concrete matter. You have to fill the holes in with confetti, but there's also no way of refilling your confetti from within the tower, so every time you chuck a load it feels genuinely tense because the resource is incredibly limited. It's weird to say that about a Mario game. Anyway, we destroy the red streamer and head off to Chapter 2. We make our way to Autumn Mountain on our way to take out the blue streamer, when we come across a new companion. Meet Bob-omb, the amnesiac with a heart of gold that Olivia just refuses to call by his name.
Now officially, his name is Bob-omb, but I refuse to associate with anyone who doesn't call him Bobby. That's 70% of why I love Olivia.
With our new partner in tow, we uncover the Water Elemental Temple in Chestnut Valley, and after beating the temple in Paper Beast, we gain our second elemental ability. We use this ability to bring water back to the river in the most visually gorgeous scenes in the game. It looks so good! And then the realistic water turns into fucking cardboard, and all is right in the world.
If only this happened more often.
We find this toad and use his boat to float downstream towards Shogun Studios theme park. Honestly one of my favourite areas in the game. The place is deserted, and we need to find the master key in order to access the locked central tower, and we obtain it through a trading sequence.
Breath of the Wild ain't got shit on Paper Mario!
The trading sequence leads up to the ninja attraction. It gives off the vibe of traditional Japanese architecture, whilst also feeling like a funhouse, which is incredibly fun to experience. We make our way to the Big Show studio, where we take part in 3 onstage performances. This game is amazing. We dance with Shy Guys, take part in a shootout outside of a saloon with a whole bunch of enemies, and save Birdo from a gang of Western Koopas in anything but that order. And this all culminates in us facing the Rubber Band. You went through the effort of giving this guy a unique design and then just gave up. The board gimmick in this battle is the rubber bands on the board that will launch you in the direction they're facing, which can either work to your advantage or be a detriment. This is another pretty fun fight, especially seeing as it ends with this! We destroy the blue streamer and celebrate our victory with a fireworks display, which makes Bobby slightly less of an amnesiac. We head further down the stream to search for the yellow streamer, and we reach Sweet Paper Valley.
That hair switch could kill someone! Be careful with that! Huh. Well, I'd love to stay in chat, but I need to go present my pitch for the new name of this game to Nintendo. See you later. Okay, hear me out. Paper Mario, Olivia fucking dies.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Bobby remembers something that could help us save Olivia, so we head to the sea because, sure, bombs can swim. Nah, apparently one of the toads we saved back on Autumn Mountain was a sea captain. Remember him?
No.
We take his boat, and we make our way to the Great Sea. We find a boat called the Princess Peach. Oh boy, I wonder who that belongs to. We board the ship, and after restoring its power and saving its crew, we head to a suite that previously belonged to Bobby. The item Bobby is searching for is here in a locked box, and all we need to do is fuck! Goopa Blooper from Super Mario Sunshine appears and just ruins our day, and a boss battle ensues. This is no ordinary Goopa Blooper though. No, this is Paper Mario, of course it isn't! This is Paper Macho Goopa Blooper, a new enemy type in Origami King. And hey, we might as well talk about this now. Naturally designed around paper mache, these enemies appear in the overworld, and we fight them in a very different way to other enemies, as they're real-time battles as opposed to turn-based battles. These guys are around 4 gallons bigger than the standard enemies, and are an incredibly fun change of pace. They all have unique weak spots as indicated by this King Ollie branding.
Let me know if you want to hit me up with a sponsor, Ollie. I'd do anything to fund my addiction to plastic and discs.
Blooper Boy over here is very different to the other Macho Men, as he is a legitimate boss fight with some incredibly unique attack patterns that are just a joy to never get hit by because I'm better than that, damn it. We destroy Goop Bloop, grab our box, and head back to save Olivia.
Up until this point, you were probably living contently believing that this game wasn't going to make you cry, but nope, rev up those tear ducts because we're in for one hell of a ride. Now, I know I've already warned for spoilers, but seriously, this is one of the most pertinent moments in the game, and if you still want it to have the same impact for you, this is prime time for you to piss out. I'll see you on the flip side.
When we arrive back at Sweet Paper Canyon, Bobby tells us of his backstory. He was once aboard the Princess Peach with a group of friends when Goopa Blooper struck the ship. The beast sent Bobby overboard and knocked his fuse off him, whilst presumably killing the rest of his friends. He woke up with no memories at the Toad Town dock, and he set off on a journey to try and remember anything. The firework display at Shogun Studios made Bobby remember the purpose of a bob-on. Blowing the fuck up.
No! Okay, how about Bobby fucking dies?
Security!
Okay, I'm going.
This was not something I ever expected from a Paper Mario game. Hell, any Mario game. The fact that they straight up killed off a major character is such an interesting concept to delve into in a Paper Mario game. It was so out of left field and genuinely had me in tears. I absolutely loved Bobby, and to see him canonically die is something very, very unique. Olivia awakens and realises what has happened, and she runs away into a nearby cave, tears in her eyes. It's up to us to find her, and when we do so, we're greeted to this heartbreaker of a scene.
My heart can't take much more of this.
Thankfully, the ghost of Bobby tells us to make her laugh, and we wear this silly fucking Goomba mask, and we manage to cheer her up.
Welcome back, happiness, it's been too long! Woo!
So, we reach the conclusion that Mario was too fucking slow, so we hire this car, and we head off to scorching Sandpaper Desert. We look up to the sky and see the anti-sun, and we need to figure out how to return light to the desert. We find these giant toad dildos sticking out of the sand, but we can't read the hieroglyphs, so we try to look for any sign of intelligent life.
Keep looking.
We head to the hotel in Sniff City, and learn of a guest named Professor Toad, who has been dedicating his entire life to researching the legend of Captain Teoed.
Is that... Never mind.
We f*** up this giant pokey that straight up ate him. I don't think payback equates to a lot of caloric intake, but f*** it, to each their own. With our new partner in tow, we head to the Fire Elemental Temple and defeat Mole Trays. We set fires inside of each of the Toad dildos with Olivia's new ability, and we unleash the Temple of Shrooms. We explore the temple and find a bunch of toads without faces, which scores a hearty yikes and a half from me. They're being held captive in this sick disco hall. Honestly, there's worse places to be held captive. We find some music that a wonderfully welcoming, ominous voice demands that we find. And after a dance sequence that wouldn't be out of place in a Ubisoft E3 conference, we meet the Hole Punch. We absolutely obliterate the concept of tables being unturned, as we punch a hole in him, haha! We destroy the yellow streamer, the toads get their faces back, good for them, and we head to the newly opened Sun Altar. We find the elusive Captain Teoed, who for the sake of simplicity I'm just going to call Captain Buttfuck, being preserved in a block of ice. This won't stand. He runs away from us, which is totally fair. Professor Toad decides he'd prefer to stay in the desert because man oh man, those heat strokes are just too alluring. When we return to Toad Town, we find Captain Buttfuck at the museum, and he's throwing a fit about the submarine that they have on display. Apparently it's the Super Marino. I absolutely love the naming scheme this game has gone for, and it belonged to our good friend Buttfuck. He takes it back, and we all head out to the Great Sea because we're just the best of friends. The sea is covered in fog, so we head to the Skull Island to rid us of it, and...
oh god. We could never escape it. Oh, Jesus Christ!
We explore the different islands of the sea, which is another really cool sequence for a Paper Mario game. On one of the islands, we find the Origami Craftsman. He explains that he was the one who created Ollie, but when he did, he used the forbidden fold of life, causing his creation to come alive. Ollie was originally created as a decoration for the Origami Festival, but he turned against his creator and sought to fold the whole kingdom in his stead. He learned the way of the fold of life, and created Olivia to rule alongside him. We learn that Ollie intends to turn the entirety of the Mushroom Kingdom into origami, and with more determination than ever, we head off to stop him.
Remember when I said that this game was more of a Zelda game than Breath of the Wild? Well, this all culminates in this area of the game.
At the foot of the mountain where the Ice Elemental dwells, we find 3 trials we must complete. The Trial of Courage, the Trial of Wisdom, and the Trial of Power. Ring a bell? After beating Paper Beartick and gaining his ability, we use the power of all 4 of the Elementals to access and complete the trials, and each of them tests our strength, reactions, and sheer will.
Breath of the Wild ain't got shit on Origami King!
We find a tower on one of the islands, and after retrieving the orbs from the 3 trials, we head to the boss of the Great Sea. Tape. I really need to stop with the dramatic reveals with these bosses. We break the holder and remove all of the tape, which is the equivalent of removing its skin. Yum! We solve another puzzle using all of our Elemental abilities, and head up to take out the last streamer in a giant beam of light. We arrive in the Shangri Spa, and yeah, that sure is Bowser's castle. We meet up with Kamek, and it tells us about just how the fuck this happened. After our misadventures at Peach's castle, Bowser and Shy Guy headed back to Bowser's castle, only to discover that, the castle's been overrun by folded soldiers. Kamek decides...
fuck it.
And kills the engine of the ship, causing the castle to come crashing down onto the spa. These angelic toads were pissed about this, so they decided to revive slavery and force Bowser's minions to work for them until the repairs are paid for in full. Anyway, Shangri Spa. I love this place. It's so tranquil and has such a neat design. I'd say overall I don't like it as much as Shogun Studios, but it's a damn close second. Kamek takes us for a tour and tells us about this bastard impersonating Thor and keeping us out of Bowser's castle. But don't worry guys, Junior's here to save the day!
Bowser Jr. fucking dies. Okay!
Kamek scoops up the many shreds of Junior, and we have to head to all of the hot springs in the spa to heal him all the way back up. On our way to the last spring, we hit many forks in the road and have to choose between trusting our blindly supportive adorable partner or one of our longtime enemies, and Olivia is wrong every fucking time, and yet I trusted her blindly!
A pussy. That's me.
We climb up this tree and we almost join the long list of people who fucking die on this game on this cliff. And then, well...
Hell yeah, I've always wanted to finish last!
We get to play in a game show, something of a tradition for the series from what I can tell, and this one is incredibly fun. We win because we're goddamn champions, fix up Bowser Jr. what good, and make our way back to Bowser's castle. We take out the thunder fuck blocking our way, and we head to the castle entrance. Kamek calls all of the minions to our side, and as our army forms, we head into the castle. This is honestly one of the coolest parts of the game for me in all honesty. I just love seeing the 2 different visual styles of Mario enemy brawling. This scene feels very epic to me, and it gets me unbelievably excited for Paper Mario Warriors.
Well, shit. The most terrifying thing in the entire game is Luigi in Bowser's castle. How the f*** did you get in there?
Oh yeah, there's also these creepy fucking cutout people who make me feel way more uneasy than they have any right to. In order to get Olivia back, we must beat these bitches down by playing rock, paper, scissors.
Please excuse me, I've made an unforgivable mistake. We play Stony Sheedy Cuddy. Feel free to take my freedom of speech as I clearly don't deserve it.
We take down the Handacondra and open the elusive door, but not before noticing the same scissors that sliced up Bowser Jr. went to town on everyone else in the castle, including Kamek. What unfortune! Is it any surprise that the boss here is the scissors? And man, can I say, f*** this boss fight. I didn't really struggle with any of the others, but this one? Nothing makes me want to retreat to the Switch home menu more than losing to this boss. So we kill this son of a bitch, which feels so good! We save Bowser and head into the best part of the entire game.
Is about to go down.
This is incredible. We get to fly Bowser's airship while shooting down all of the enemy ships. It's amazing. Such a fun and unique way to build up to the final leg of the game.
Damn it!
I mean, they had it coming. We crash into the side of a mountain, and we are greeted by the best chase sequence in the entirety of the Paper Mario series. This sequence is so intense, Kamek and Bowser Jr. both sacrifice themselves all in the name of us being able to save Bowser, and holy shit, this game really knows how to get the old adrenaline pumping. We reach Bowser, and use what's left of his ship to fire ourselves out of a cannon up to the entrance of Peach's castle. And it's locked.
What a cockblock! And hey, speaking of... never change, bitch!
Throughout the game, Luigi has been searching for the key that we need to unlock the castle doors, and every time he thinks he's found it, he humiliates himself. This is what I like to call the culmination of said humility, as he flies in, cries about being a failure, and ends up having the key in his car's exhaust. Good job! And then he joins us in the castle and fucks out immediately. We meet with Origami Peach and... well... Ollie transforms Peach's castle into an origami obstacle course, and we have to manipulate the paper pathways to reach him. The origami castle is amazing. All of the puzzles you have to solve are incredibly unique and interesting, and it all culminates in... oh, for fuck's sake. Yup, this wouldn't be Paper Mario the Origami King's final sequence without a fight against Stationary, and much like the scissors before it, I fucking hate the stapler boss fight, thank you very much. He staples you to the ground and it just hurts my feelings. But, nevertheless, we beat him, and all of the staples throughout the world are destroyed, meaning...
it's about fucking time I missed you, you antagonistic prick!
It's so cool to have Bowser on our side. I know this isn't a first for the Paper Mario series, hell, it's not a first for the Mario series in general, but man, I don't care, I love Bowser, and to finally have him restored to his non-folded glory is amazing. We head in to confront Ollie and what the hell is going on here?
Hey, welcome to a recurring segment entitled, What the hell is wrong with this? Yeah, checks out.
That is a lot of origami cranes, and that is a lot of Princess Peach wallpaper. Ollie reveals that he is attempting to utilise the ability of the 1000-fold cranes, wherein one must...
take a shot in the dark!
In order to be granted any wish. What's Ollie's wish? Well, he has a fucking vendetta against the Toads, so he wants to rid the world of all of them. His reasoning is that the Toad who created him scribbled all over his paper, that swine. He has folded 999 of the necessary cranes, and plans on folding the last one out of us.
Wait, but which of us are you gonna use?
Here we have it, the final boss, which consists of 3 phases. The first phase is a Pokemon battle. Ollie transforms into one of the 4th elementals, transform into the one that directly counters him, rinse and repeat until his health is knocked out. Phase 2 is where the fight starts to get really interesting, as Ollie transforms himself into this adorable toy dinosaur looking form. So Bowser follows suit and the two give each other a beastly bout of nuggies and raspberries. This is nothing more than a dramatised cat fight, but I absolutely love it. Here we simply assist Bowser by sending shockwaves in Ollie's direction until he loses his balance and falls to his anti-death. In the final phase, Ollie transforms into the most powerful and quite frankly intimidating form yet, and Olivia summons an almighty magic circle, but before he can use it, Ollie jumbles it up. What unfortune! We have to rearrange the picture, and we're only given a matter of seconds to do so before Ollie tries to bitch slap us into the grave. After finally rearranging the puzzle, Olivia transforms into a giant hammer and straight up Mufasa's Ollie, ending an amazing fight. I genuinely loved this battle. Sure, the puzzle portion was slightly questionable, but it didn't at all detract from the overall experience. Ollie is defeated and asks Olivia to read what has been scribbled into his body as a final act of humility, and Olivia reveals that it was a kind message wishing him luck as a new king. That's kinda bullshit.
So the entirety of the game happened because Ollie was too fucking stubborn to ask what was written on him? Why is the game trying to make me feel bad for this arsehole?
He asks that Olivia uses his body to fold the last crane and rid the world of his creations. But Olivia doesn't know how to fold cranes.
Imagine how fucked we would be without Luigi in this game.
The origami craftsman teaches Olivia how to fold the crane, and she wishes to undo all of her brother's creations. This is such a pertinent moment. The fact that Olivia sacrifices herself, potentially unknowingly, simply to reverse the effects of her brother's negligence is so powerful, and says a lot about her character. And with that, the Origami Festival is finally concluded, and all of Toad Town send paper lanterns into the sky.
And that was pretty much Paper Mario the Origami King. I don't think I need to say it at this point, but I absolutely loved this game. The story, the characters, I loved it all so much. It's honestly one of the best games I've ever played. But you know how we roll around here. I love bitching about the way games stimulate my eye and ear holes, so let's quickly wrap this up with my thoughts on the presentation, as well as a few other things.
The presentation of this game is absolutely phenomenal. The paper aesthetic is fully brought to life here. The worlds are vast, open, and so interesting visually, and this is immensely aided by the fact that everything is very visibly made of paper. It's so charming, and when the design of the locals and the chosen thematic identity of a game work in tandem so brilliantly, it's impossible for me to not have a big stupid grin on my face whenever I'm looking at this game's vistas. Something I don't see people mention much is the interesting dynamic going on between the regular enemies and the origami soldiers. The contrast between both forms of characters is super engaging for me. I personally love how the enemies are distinguished from the regular cast by their own unique art style, and going back and looking at the older games where Mario and his enemies share an art style, it isn't nearly as engaging as what Origami King has going on. This game's soundtrack is also impeccable. The battle theme is an absolute bop, and hearing all of the variations of it throughout the game was an absolute treat. There genuinely isn't a single track in the game that I don't love. All of the music is so fitting for where it's found in the game, helping heighten certain emotions or make certain scenes more potent, but it also works incredibly outside of the game, and I honestly listen to the soundtrack very frequently. Final and sorted thoughts here. If I had to complain about any element of the game, it would be that coins feel a little bit pointless. You gain them from battles to use in battles. You can use them to help you solve the puzzles before the attack stage of each battle, and you can use them to buy items that can be used exclusively within battles. It's not a massive deal, there are some other things to buy with coins, but the game absolutely showers you in them to the extent that they don't really hold much value. I'm also not a fan of all the major bosses being stationary, but I feel like that was fairly obvious. It works to break the immersion that the beautiful world sets up, and I know that was entirely intentional, which is a whole other can of worms, but still. If they didn't all have such unique personalities, I'd be singing a different tune. But I can't help but wish these same personalities were slapped onto some more creatively satisfying characters. And now, to counteract my tiny bit of negativity, I'll end with this. I absolutely adore the partners in this game. Kamek and Bowser Jr. are so fun. They've always made for an interesting pair, and having them alongside Mario and Olivia leads to some goddamn funny moments. I already mentioned that having Bowser alongside us is an absolute treat. Professor Toad is a ball of intellect and anxiety, and the chemistry between him and Olivia leads to even more funny moments that genuinely had me laughing out loud. Bobby was such an interesting and funny character. Him being an amnesiac set up so many jokes which were thoroughly delivered upon. And Olivia. Oh my god, Olivia! She's so naive and timid, but also bursting with charm and wonder. She allows us to see the game's world through the eyes of a child with her constant curiosity. She's hands down the most charming character, and there are times in the game where she brings about genuine, heartfelt scenes that are so emotional. She's my absolute favourite character in the game. I wish I saw more people talking about her. She reminds me a lot of Isabelle from Animal Crossing, and I genuinely hope that Olivia gets the same sort of following that Isabelle did after her debut.
You'll be happy to know that I'm finally going to shut the fuck up about this game. Now, I don't do review scores, but on a scale of Paper Mario Sticker Star to Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door, I'd say this game is definitely Paper Mario the Origami King. You know, I should really play the other Paper Mario games. I don't actually own any of them. Let's see how much the original two are going for. It was worth it! Hey, what's up, it's your boy Rawk, and consider me homeless. Yeah, I might have blew all my money on Paper Mario 1 and 2, leaving me with no way to pay for the house that I live in, which made me a prime candidate to be kicked the f*** out. This blows. I actually didn't mind spending a little bit more time outdoors, until I realised that I no longer have a way of playing the two games that got me into this in the first place. So, breaking and entering is fun as shit. Ah, this guy, right? My favourite things about Mario are the fact that he isn't as thin as a twig, he can kill enemies with a single jump, and that he doesn't wield a hammer. You know what? Scratch that. I want none of that. Finally, a game for me! Mario RPGs. As your local, not a huge RPG fan, I haven't played many of these games. But even still, I have immense amounts of respect for these games, or as my doctor would say, a tumour. But in the eyes of fans and critics alike, the quality of both of Mario's RPG series have been dwindling over time to an almost unbearable degree. People constantly say how they wish these games would just go back to how the series used to be. Releasing on the Nintendo 64. After hearing people make these comments for over a decade, I wanted to go back and see what made these original games so good. What made fans love them so much? And when I asked Nintendo for a PAL copy of Super Mario RPG, they spat on my foot and told me to piss off. So, Paper Mario it is. Paper Mario released on the Nintendo 64 on October 5th, 2001 here in the UK, and was one of the very last games on the Nintendo 64. What a way to piss out. The game was initially revealed at a Nintendo Space World event in the late 90s, basically a Nintendo-centric version of E3. So E3. The game was revealed with the working title Super Mario RPG 2. As a stupid fucking British person who wasn't allowed to play the SNES original, I couldn't wait to see how the story continued. The build showed off here looks pretty damn similar to the final game, with some of the main differences being in the user interface and the menus, both in and out of battle. Upon release, the game was showered in praise, receiving near perfect scores from most publications. So needless to say, this game has quite the legacy behind it, and after spending too much fucking money on this damn thing, I'm excited to see if this game actually stands the test of time, or if it's nothing more than a shredded relic from the turn of the millennium. Today we're being told a story of star spirits and good wishes. Oh man, I've always wanted a story about that! This game sold me already. We open on the Sanctuary of the Star Haven, which is home to the star spirits, and their elusive Star Rod, which isn't what you think it is, you dirty-minded bitch. Suddenly Bowser! What unfortune! Kammy Koopa attacks the star spirits, turning them into cards, and Bowser steals the rod. Luckily for us, a Star Child was able to escape Bowser's clutches, and only God knows if he'll become helpful at some point in the future. Cut to Paper Mario. No! And Paper Luigi, who received a letter from Princess Peach inviting them to the castle. The bros head over to their conveniently placed warp pipe and make their way to the castle. Upon arriving, Mario decides that he can't bear to be around Luigi any longer and he pisses off to explore the castle. The castle is bustling with Mushroom Kingdom residents, and we can talk to all of them. But come on, does Mario look like he's here to talk to people? Instead of being a functioning member of society, we head straight upstairs to find Peach, who's bored and horny. She requests some alone time, just her and Mario, where none of the guests should be able to bother them. What's this game's age rating again? Fellas, how many times have you been about to get your f*** on before getting cock-blocked by the building you're in being stolen? Oh, I couldn't even begin to count. Bowser's airship wears the castle as a hat and begins to fly above the kingdom. The BDSM turtle himself comes crashing through the window and declares war on Mario by basically saying, "Fight me, pussy!" And the last thing Paper Mario is a pussy. So sure enough, a fight ensues. Oh man, I can't wait to finally get into the gameplay of Paper Mario for it to be, dear God, anything but an RPG. Nintendo, you son of a bitch. Oh hey look, it's Rawk, the kid who loves Chibi Robo and fucking hates RPGs. Do you think you like Paper Mario? Yes, you heard it here first. I'm a bitch. I don't necessarily hate RPGs, but I've just never enjoyed their battle systems. The turn-based format has never really sat right with me. Now, I smell a counterpoint. I've been on the record as saying I'm one of only 7 people who enjoyed the Origami King's battle system, and that's still true, because in that game, the turn-based battling isn't really the focal point. The main part of any fight is the
puzzle section, and the actual fighting is over and done pretty damn quickly. But in other RPGs, the battles are grueling. That's one of the main reasons I've never been able to get into mainline Pokemon. Most of the playtime in these games consists of these long drawn-out battles with a squirrel. But man, why would I do that when I could just run up to the squirrel and kick its ass? I obviously have a negative bias against RPGs, which means Paper Mario has an uphill battle right from the get-go. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to give the game a fair shot. I'm willing to put my bias aside to see if this game can win me over regardless of my own preferences. But I better keep this close by, just in case. A few turns into our very first battle, Bowser whips out the Star Rod and tell me, how the hell am I supposed to compete with that? I couldn't. Mario is thrown out of the castle after his defeat and plummets towards the kingdom below. Because I haven't suffered enough. And with that, our adventure begins. With hallucinations. The Star Spirits come down to discuss how f***ed they are over Mario's dead body. After they piss off, a Goomba appears. And not just any Goomba, a Goomba with character. She freaks out that she can't wake Mario up and decides to resort to kidnapping. Old Man Star Spirit returns and tells us to head to the Shooting Star Summit. And after Mario's awoken by a toad, he does the only reasonable thing to do. He tries to run as far as he can, as fast as he can. Kammy Koopa makes a comeback with the sole intention of f***ing up our day. She drops a giant block on the fence and the only way for us to break it is by finding Grandpa Goombitch and permanently borrowing his hammer. So let's head over to his house. Shit. Well, we found him, good for us, but he didn't find his hammer, bad for us. He left it in the middle of a field, and because we found it, he lets us borrow it. Permanently. And with that, it's time to head back. Damn it. This is Junior Trooper, and he decides that for absolutely no reason whatsoever, he wants us dead. But little does he know, I have a hammer. I mean business. Now that we have the hammer, we essentially have the fundamental abilities used in every fight moving forward. I wonder if I'll have to use both of these abilities in tandem to defeat this little brat. He died before I could even finish that sentence. Jesus. He runs off like the coward he is, but I have no doubt we'll see him again at some point. Oh joy. We make it back to Goomba Village, and Grandpa Goombitch gives us a power jump badge. Badges are at the core of the strategy in Paper Mario, and believe it or not, there's a reason that people haven't been able to shut the f*** up about them for the past 12 years. Badges are essentially special abilities that you can equip that allow Mario to perform more moves in battle. Each badge you equip uses up a certain amount of badge points, and each of the moves they grant you in battle use up a certain amount of flower points. You'll initially start out with a fairly small amount of each type of points, but you can also level up by earning star points in battle. Every time you level up, you can upgrade either your health points, flower points, or badge points, and you truly have to think about which of the three would be best for you to upgrade at any particular time. This adds an immense amount of depth to the gameplay before you even set foot into a battle. And you'll level up fairly frequently, meaning you can pretty much customize Mario to be the exact perfect character to fit your playstyle, as long as you're good enough or patient enough to level up consistently. Some people go strictly for badge points, others for flower points, and some fucking weirdos strictly upgrade their health points for some ungodly reason. Me personally, I try to balance all three of these things as equally as I could, though admittedly, I did tend to lean towards HP and FP rather than badge points. Anyway, we can finally head off out of the village, but why would we do that when we can listen to Goombario talking about how he wants to come along for the ride with us, and if it'll shut him up? Sure, why not? And this, right here, is the first instance of partners in Paper Mario, potentially the most contentious issue surrounding the series to this very day. So let's discuss. Partners are unique characters found throughout the first 3 Paper Mario games that join Mario on his quest. In the first 2 games, they mostly take a wacky and creative spin on one of the pre-existing Mario species, with a few exceptions here and there. These guys are the definition of personality, and to many, they define the Paper Mario series. Each of them is completely individual and offer their own insight onto many of the situations Mario gets them into, meaning no playthrough of Paper Mario will ever be the same if you consistently shake up who you have following Mario. This alone should be enough to justify partners entirely, but that's only one side of the story, because these guys also assist you in battle. After Mario has taken his turn, it's the partners' time to shine. And each and every one of them has a unique moveset that can be expanded later on in the game. Each of the partners has their own strengths and weaknesses, which means there's legitimate strategy involved when deciding which partner to use for any given situation. And I love it. So hopefully now you understand why I and countless others consider partners to be something of a lifeblood for the series. In many regards, they're what make Paper Mario, well, Paper Mario. And I couldn't imagine a game in the series without them. Nope, I couldn't imagine it, it's never happened. So Goombario joins our party. He has a base moveset consisting of Headbonk and Tattle. Headbonk is functionally identical to Mario's jump, and using Tattle on an enemy will give you a pretty in-depth bio on them, and will reveal their stats, allowing HP to be seen on every encounter from then onwards. This move is really useful, and many see using Tattle on every single enemy as the only true way of 100%ing this game. I am not one of those swine. We keep on walking from Goomba Village until we meet these guys, eyes, and oh my god. I can't believe it, Peekaboo was real all along! And he brought his bloodstained twin with him. This must have been an absolute trip for kids in the early 2000s. Now, of course, you might be saying, but Rawk, weren't you a kid in the early 2000s?
Well, yes, but if a console didn't have My Health Coach Stop Smoking with Alan Carr on it, then I refused to give a piss about it back then. My childhood rocked.
In a shocking turn of events, Peekaboo and his friend want us dead, but they didn't take into account the fact that I don't like Pokemon, so I can gladly kick Peekaboo's ass. We step on them so much they cry and they retreat to Goomba King's fortress. Man, I wonder who we're gonna find there. Good f***! The Three Musketeers challenge us to a fight, and this big bastard is more bark than bite because he's easy as all hell to take out. They retreat into the fortress again and accidentally let it slip that there's a button out here that we absolutely shouldn't press. But because I'm like, what, 5? I pressed it before I was able to be warned, which causes the castle to turn into a bridge.
I hate when that happens.
Turns out Cammy was stalking us and heads back to report to Bowser, and he is pissed. He sends out bootleg Ninja Turtles to try and stop us, as we head to Toad Town. Toad Town is the central location of the Mushroom Kingdom and quite possibly the most iconic area in this game. We return here after every chapter, and every chapter also begins here. And it's a cozy little hub world with a lot of personality and charm to it. From Toad Town we head to Star Summit, where we find Twink, who teaches us the almighty power of action commands. Action commands are another thing that somewhat define the Paper Mario experience. And while some games handle them differently, their core concept is ever present throughout the series. Every single move you can perform has its own action command associated with it. The easiest examples are the jump and hammer attacks, where you press A before you land on an enemy and pull the control stick to the left until the star prompt flashes respectively.
Now, as I've already mentioned, I'm not the biggest fan of turn-based combat, but with the addition of action commands, my god, they did it. They actually made turn-based combat enjoyable! I feel like I have to wash my mouth out with soap after saying that.
Timing an action command correctly allows you to deal extra damage to your opponents, and with some moves, consistently timing them well allows you to use the attack multiple times in one turn. This makes typical turn-based combat so much more engaging, as if you want to be as effective as possible, you need to constantly be trying to time those actions correctly, and they're so satisfying to pull off. This is what turn-based combat has been missing. Just this simple addition makes me actually enjoy this style of battle, and going back to games that don't have action commands in their turn-based combat, they pale in comparison.
Sorry, f*** you, Pokemon.
Twink gives us an opportunity to put our new skills to the test, and we head back to Toad Town to wrap up the prologue. Wait, that was just the prologue?
Now, I know when I talked about the Origami King, I went pretty in-depth into that game's chapters, but compared to this game's 5, the original game has 8 chapters, and if I was to be just as thorough here, then Pikmin 4 would release by the time I was done. So instead, I'm going to give a brief plot synopsis on each of the chapters, whilst also talking about the partners we meet in each of them. Which is still going to take me half a century, but this game deserves it, damn it.
Chapter 1 sees us trying to take out the Koopa Bros at their fortress. We raid Koopa Village of a fuzzy infestation, or for the Yoshi's Island fans out there, we pull off a massive drug bust. And after helping him find his shell, Koopa joins our party. He has a base moveset consisting of Shell Toss and Power Shell. Shell Toss allowing Koopa to throw himself at a single enemy, and Power Shell allowing Koopa to throw himself at every enemy on the ground. Which is definitely my go-to attack when this guy's on the scene. Koopa also introduces us to the concept of overworld abilities. If we press the down button while he's out on the field, Mario jumps on him and sends him flying, which can be used to grab items across gaps that are too big to jump over, and can also be used to attack enemies from afar. The Koopa Bros Fortress is the first big indoor area of the game, and it's an absolute blast to traverse and solve all the puzzles it has to offer. And inside of its walls, we meet Bombette, who joins our party. She has a base moveset consisting of Body Slam and Bomb. The former sees her charging into an enemy, and the latter sees her... yeah. Self-sacrifice is also her overworld ability, and it's used quite a lot in the fortress. The final boss is funny. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Rejects build a giant cardboard Bowser, and they really think they got away with it. And they did, because dear lord, I shit myself when they emerged from the suit that I destroyed, and for that they must go to prison. The first of many star cards emerges, and with that, we're greeted by the most iconic sequence of 13 characters this series has ever seen. Of course, that isn't the end of the chapter because we cut to Bowser's castle, in one of many sections where you can play as Peach. And may I ask, why don't more Mario games do this? Not even just Peach specifically, just let us play as someone other than Mario for a little bit. While the gameplay is a lot more limited compared to the standard sections, this is a really nice change of pace, and these parts are monumentally enjoyable, and actually make me appreciate the standard sections with Mario a whole lot more. Peach escapes her room through a fireplace, which seems awfully risky for someone who is made of paper, and we sneak into Bowser's room room to read his diary. What a thrill! Back to Mario. The star spirit we saved, known as L-Star, is freed from his cardboard prison and tells us to save the rest of his people.
If you insist.
Saving a star spirit grants us a new ability to use in battle, and these are the most powerful moves in your arsenal, which is why you're incredibly limited on how many times you can use them. I actually like how limited they are, because if they were more readily available, this already not too difficult game would be an absolute walk in the park.
And we all know there's only one park that I want to walk in.
And with that, we head back to Toad Town to embark on Chapter 2. Chapter 2 sees us travelling to Mount Rugged, and on those travels, we meet Paracari, the Koopa equivalent of attaching a letter to a pigeon and hoping for the best. He's lost all of his letters, and after we agree to help him search for them, he joins our party. Paracari has a base moveset of Skydive and Shell Shot, the former seeing him launching a flying kick at an enemy, and the latter being an airborne equivalent of Koopa's Shell Toss. Paracari's Overworld ability sees him lifting Mario across gaps that are too large for him to jump over, and a whole lot of his letters are found this way. After traversing the maze-like desert, we reach Dry Outpost, the dehydrated cousin of everybody's favorite Mario Kart track. We engage in a trading sequence of items for information, and we make our way to Dry Ruins. This place is a blast to traverse, and at the end of it all, we find Toot and Koopa, and a battle commences. We kick his ass and his Chain Chomp tries to make a meal out of him before we save the second Star Spirit. Back at the castle, Bowser tells Peach of Toot and Koopa's defeat and how he plans to send out the invincible Tubba Blubber, and it's up to Peach to find out what his weak point is. It's probably his name, let's be real. Mario frees the star spirit known as Mama from her card, we learn the ability Lullaby, and head to Toad Town to embark on Chapter 3. Chapter 3 sees us traversing to Forever Forest, which uses the exact same wolf howl sound effect from Ocarina of Time. How could this dare to not be the best chapter? The forest is a maze with subtle hints that tell you which way is the right way to go, and at the end of the maze we find a mansion. Boo Mansion to be specific. We're greeted by the friendliest dead person I've ever met, but he sets up expectations that the rest of the house just can't meet because everywhere else is riddled with either puzzles or people that want me dead. But I mean, at least I can become 8-bit Mario.
That's a plus. That's not.
We head to the 3rd floor and meet Lady Bo, who tells us that Tubba Blubber has been terrorizing and eating her people, so she joins our party in hopes that we can stop the suffering of the boos. Bo has a base moveset consisting of Smack and Out of Sight, the former being an attack that allows Bo to smack an enemy up to 5 times, and the latter being a move that hides Mario and makes him immune for a turn, which can be really useful. Her Overworld ability is identical to Out of Sight, but it has no limit on how long it can be used for. The gang head to Gusty Garden Galaxy's lesser-known cousin, Gusty Gulch, where a village of boos is being rampaged by Tubba, and that just won't stand. We follow him back to his castle, and after sneaking to the master bedroom, we find the literal key to his weakness, Yagi. Yagi deduces that we're intruders and sounds the alarms for the castle. Man, of all characters in the game to be intelligent. This leads to an angry Tubba chasing us throughout the castle in a really exhilarating and genuinely tense segment of the game that I absolutely loved. Yagi is a key for the windmill found in Gusty Gulch, and after heading inside we find the beast's heart, which is controlling the body remotely. The heart escapes and is reunited with its body, leaving Tubba vulnerable to a can of ass whooping, which we gladly deliver. As thanks for ridding the boos of their trauma, Bo sets free the 3rd star spirit, Skola, ending Chapter 3. Back in the castle, Peach decides to leave her room for reasons, and lots of them. Bowser then interrogates Peach about what makes Mario's skin crawl, and we give him answers that are absolutely steeped in truth and not bullshit because that would just be rude. We learn the ability Storm from Scholar, and head back to Toad Town for Chapter 4. Chapter 4 sees us entering a toy box comprised of 4 distinct regions, and a railway connecting them all. Now, I would have loved this toy box as a kid, but come on. I had this. We do this because of a Shy Guy infestation in Toad Town. They somehow managed to escape from this toy box and steal a man's calculator, and for that, they must perish. The railway is broken and it's up to us to fix it. We do this by traversing the regions, solving puzzles, and feeding cakes to large Shy Guys. And this culminates in us facing the Big Lantern Ghost, a secluded being who loves only having a small source of light and never seeing people, also known as Yours Truly. We defeat him and he drops his lantern, allowing Watt to break free.
I don't know what breaks free, why are you asking me?
Watt joins the party and has a base moveset consisting of Electro Dash and Power Shock. The former performs a standard attack on one enemy, while the latter targets one enemy in hopes of paralyzing them, and his Overworld ability brings light to any dark areas you may find, whilst also uncovering secrets like invisible blocks. We try to locate the Shy Guy HQ and get this. We do. General Guy seems to be behind the outbreak, and he forms an army to defeat us. But we have too much plot armor for that to ever happen. We defeat the cult and free Muscular, the 4th Star Spirit, bringing an end to Chapter 4. Back in the castle, Peach is wandering around, minding her own business, until blam! Gourmet Guy makes his return and says he has to rat her out. But he might change his mind if she baked him a cake. And Peach doesn't want to go against damaging gender stereotypes, so she makes her way to the kitchen. In exchange for Peach's cake, Gourmet Guy lets her know where the next Star Spirit lies. Mario learns the chill out ability from Muscular, and we head back to Toad Town to embark on Chapter 5. Chapter 5 sees us trying to reach Mount Lava Lava with everybody's favorite Colorado, who we met briefly back in Chapter 2. We're surprised to find lava surrounding the mountain, which makes it inaccessible to us. We head to Yoshi Village to look for help, and do yourself a favor and listen to this music.
I'm a big supporter of that.
We find a fish stuck in a tree, and after helping her get down, she tells us she needs to find the Yoshi children she was taking care of, as they've escaped into the deadly depths of the jungle. Sushi is the name of the fish, and she joins our party. She has a base moveset consisting of belly flop and squirt, the former being very self-explanatory, and the latter being needlessly sexual.
It's a fucking fish!
Her overworld ability allows her to carry Mario across bodies of water, which makes her the perfect partner for a sewer. We find and return the missing Yoshi children because we're goddamn heroes, and when we return to the village, the leader of the Yoshis suggests we try to find Raphael the Raven, but neglects to tell us how to do that. Thanks. We find him on some random-ass tree, and he gives us a way to make it to Mount Lava Lava. We explore the caverns while Colorado falls into lava with worrying consistency, and we meet the lava piranha. Would you believe me if I told you we need to defeat it, and the best way of doing that is letting a fish squirt all over it? The volcano starts erupting and the Star Spirit we just saved helps us escape with our lives still intact. Jesus Christ, Peach, please help me redeem myself. Back at the castle, Peach fails to escape yet again. And these two over here bribe Peach into participating in a game show. If Peach wins, she gets a parasol that allows her to transform into anybody she points it at. She beat Mario to the transformation station by 16 years. The answers to the questions reveal the location of the next Star Spirit, and Twink wastes no time in getting this information to Mario, as he heads back to Toad Town for yet another chapter. Chapter 6 sees us hunting down seeds to give to Bubulb, who opens the doorway to Flower Fields. The luscious meadow is shrouded in clouds, and this is the result of Huff and Puff using his Huff Puff machine to make more clouds than there already were. We have to find the magical bean, miracle water, and fertile soil to grow a beanstalk that will take us directly to Huff and Puff. On our quest to do... we meet a Lagtu called Lackluster. He wants to be called Spike, but there isn't a single Spike in sight. He's under Huff and Puff's command, but after we kick the shit out of him, he realizes there's more to life than being a pain in my arse, so he joins our party. Lackluster has a base moveset consisting of Spiny Flip and Spiny Surge. The former throws a Spiny at a single enemy, the latter throws a barrage of Spinies at all enemies. And his overworld ability allows us to cross over spikes and lava, whilst also granting a speed boost. We destroy the Huff and Puff machine after collecting the 3 materials, and we head over to plant and grow the beanstalk. We climb up it and prepare to face off against the most intimidating boss the Mushroom Kingdom has ever seen. A fucking cloud. I wish I was joking. This guy puts up a pretty mean fight, but whatever. We trounce him and save Star Spirit number 6. What a shocker! Back at the castle, Peach uses the parasol to transform into a god and sneak her way through the castle. She learns the preparations to destroy Mario are being finalized. Yeah, I've heard that one before. Mario learns the ability Time Out from the Star Spirit known as Clever. And then take a guess as to where he goes next. Chapter 7 sees us trying to get to Starborn Valley, which is something we can't do without the mayor of Shiver City's permission. So let's go see him and get his blessing. Huh. He's dead. And now we're the primary suspect in a murder investigation. Neat shit. Turns out he just knocked himself out with a book, which I really wish I knew before I conducted an hour-long investigation, but it's fine. We head to Starborn Valley, but not before a fight with Junior Trooper and the entity so cleverly named Monster. And when we arrive in the valley, this guy Merle gives us a scarf to put on a snowman that somehow opens a pathway to the Crystal Palace.
You really think I'd start questioning things this far into the game?
We traverse the palace, which is probably the best and most challenging area in the game. And we reach the Crystal King. This guy's the guardian of the final Star Spirit, and as such, he must also perish. We wipe the floor with him, free the 7th Star Spirit Kalmar, and wrap up the last traditional chapter in the game. Back at the castle, Bowser is told that Mario has all of the Star Spirits, and in retaliation, he ties up the princess and hits Twink out of a window.
The only reasonable response.
Mario learns Up and Away from Kalmar, and with the 7 Star Spirits united, he also learns the move Starbeam, which is the only thing that can break the power of Bowser's space dildo, leaving him weak and ready to get his ass kicked. With an imminent dread looming over us, we head into Chapter 8, the final chapter of Paper Mario, where all of our hard work will truly be put to the test. It's time to take on Bowser. As you would expect, we traverse both Bowser and Peach's castle, overcoming many obstacles, such as him, and for fuck's sake. Junior Trooper's back, everybody, but I'm kinda busy right now, so go the fuck away! We reach the top of the castle and find ourselves on a floating platform staring Bowser down. The princess and Cammy are here to watch the fight go down, and as time passes, we're inching further and further away from the kingdom. This final boss is incredible. There are 4 separate phases. The first, where we use the star beam on Bowser so our attacks can actually be effective. Then after this phase, Cammy powers up both the arena and the Koopa King himself, making star beam useless. The third phase of the fight sees us playing as Twink and fighting against Cammy, and to the surprise of everybody with skin, we win. And with the combined power of the Star Spirits, Twink, and Peach's wishes, we gain the ability Peach Beam, an upgraded version of the star beam that makes us able to penetrate every single one of Bowser's defenses. This leads us into phase 4, a good old traditional brawl, and a brawl that is one of the most enjoyable fights of the game. Perfect difficulty level in tandem with perfect theming and atmosphere. It's an absolutely fantastic fight. We pummel Bowser and we finally retrieve the Star Rod, the sole thing that set this adventure into motion. We reunite with Princess Peach, and the only thing that could possibly follow this up is everyone getting blown the fuck up.
It's only natural.
The power of the Star Spirit saves Mario and Co from being obliterated, and they return to Peach's castle. We return the Star Rod to its rightful owners, and with that, the story of the Star Spirits is over. They return to the Star Haven, and following behind them is Twink, who gives Mario and Peach a heartwarming goodbye. And as the Star Spirits make their departure, we close the book on Paper Mario. And this moment right here marks only the beginning of one of Nintendo's most beloved series. Luigi's back.
Yes!
Paracari sends out invitations to all of our party members, and it's nice to see what they're getting up to after Bowser's reign ended. The Mario Bros head to Peach's castle, and with that, the credits roll to a parade. This is the best thing I've ever seen. Paper Mario's story is absolutely fantastic in its own right, but what really makes it as good as it is the characters scattered across every inch of the game's world, and the superb writing that accompanies them. When it comes down to it, the game tells a pretty traditional Mario story. Save the princess from Bowser and make people lick the heel of your shoe. But the game is given that basic premise and runs as far as it can with it in terms of creativity. You grow to love each and every one of the characters, especially the partners, who I cannot understate the importance of.
So, did Paper Mario sell me on RPGs? Did it make me understand why so many fans wish the series would go back to its roots? The f*** do you think?
The simple addition of action commands alone turns the turn-based nature of this game from something I couldn't give a piss about into a system that I absolutely adore. I know I've already touched on this, but the battle system in this game is fantastic. It's constantly engaging and just all-around enjoyable to use, which at the end of the day is the most important thing. If a game is fun to play and has interesting ideas, then that is enough to make it a worthwhile experience. But Paper Mario has so much more to it than that. It's deep, it's charming, it feels so alive. And if this is an indication of what's to come for this series, then I can't wait to continue this journey. But the game ends on kind of a lame note. The parade ends and Mario and Peach head back to Mario's place. They watch the fireworks to a lovely piece of music, but after a minute or so, I got the gist. So let's just head back to the main menu. Oh. It's one of those games, isn't it? I have to restart before the final boss, don't I? God damn it!
Paper Mario is a stellar experience, and it might even be my favourite N64 game. Now, do I recommend anybody else try to hunt down and spend their mortgage on an original copy? This game is absolutely worth your time, and it immediately sunk its teeth into me. The world and characters alone were enough to get me coming back to the game consistently for more, and after how excellent this thing was, I have high hopes for its sequel. But to get back to the whole I am homeless thing, I need to make money ASAP and quickly. But I don't know how I'm gonna make that money. I mean, I could sell the game that I've just played, or I could work for money. That's fucking ridiculous. I'll just wait for a pyramid scheme to rear its ugly head in. Wait just a tick, I should invest in the paper industry! That thing's been booming since the release of this game, and to think I almost sold my credibility. And with that foolproof plan, I'm on my way to living in this place slightly more legally. Oh, come the f*** on! Hey, what's up? It's your boy Rawk, and...
You see, I've had this thing lately where I just have to buy any and all paper-based products that I see. My wallet is screaming in agony, and it smells like debt is on the menu tonight. You see, it all started back in May 2020. Nintendo revealed a game called Paper Mario the Origami King, to which I said,
Well, I'm not buying this until I know how good paper truly is.
so I bought some paper. And then I didn't stop buying paper. I've been at it for weeks. I don't know what's wrong with me! Fuck. Super Mario is one of Nintendo's most beloved series. No shit. The series has carved its place into the hearts of consumers and developers everywhere, and there's something of a symbiosis going on here. You see, Mario is stupidly accessible and recognizable to the masses, and Nintendo knows it. So they take any genre under the sun and barf Mario into it for easy sales. The fans take the bait and spew money at the games faster than you could say, Mamma Mia, that's a spicy meatball. And the Mario series continues its monopoly on thumbs all over the world. Literally, Nintendo could slap Mario on anything and somebody would buy it. A kidney transplant? No, thank you. Mario's the donor? Well, sign me the f*** up. I only have a little shame. Mario's been in racing games, party games, sports games, fighting games, but many would argue that none of these compare to his history in RPGs. Now, as somebody who generally can't stand RPGs, naturally I'm the most qualified person to be talking about this. I already feel like my life's in danger. I wonder why! Within this subgenre of Mario games, there are 3 sub-series of games. And it could even be argued that within one of those sub-series, there are 2 more sub-series. How deep does this rabbit hole go? Super Mario RPG released on the Super Nintendo and was a standalone adventure. Mario & Luigi started its life on the GBA and was a different spin on the Mario RPG style of games. And finally, Paper Mario started its life on the N64, originally developed as a sequel to RPG, but eventually becoming its own series. Paper Mario is definitely the RPG series that people seem to care about the most, so let's quickly take a look at the general reception of these games over the years. Pretty damn good. Divisive but decent. Shit. Pretty damn good. What the hell am I supposed to say about this? The reception of the series is so all over the place, and it's really hard to talk about a series as a whole when every single entry differs so greatly from the last in almost every conceivable way. But what if there was another Paper Mario game? A Paper Mario game that was universally praised as the best in the series. Hell, one of the best games to feature Mario. What if there was a game that featured all of the strong points of the series with barely any of the flaws? If only. Paper Mario the 1000-Year Door. If you've been on the internet or outside in the past decade, then you'll no doubt have heard people like me who won't shut the f*** up about this one. The game was revealed at the Game Developers Conference in 2003, going by the simple title Paper Mario 2. It was confirmed to be a direct sequel to the N64 title, borrowing a lot of gameplay elements from it, whilst massively overhauling the graphical style. The original game looked fantastic visually, but the 1000-Year Door is the perfect evolution of that style, and would go on to shape how the rest of the series would look. In the original trailer, we got a good look at some of the partners, Hooktail in his castle, and of course, the game would later be playable on the E3 2004 show floor, before releasing later that year on July 22nd in Japan, October 11th in the US, and November 12th in Europe. At the time of its release, the 1000-Year Door received almost universal critical acclaim. Everybody loved it. Apart from Game Informer, apparently they fucking hated it. Not even a 7 out of 10, man, that is harsh! The thing that most people praise this game the most for is its story, which is interesting to me. I don't immediately associate podgy Italian man with deep plots. I usually just think of Peach getting kidnapped. So, what happens in this game? Huh. Our story begins with the tale of the town of Rogueport, a town built on the remains of a civilization that sank into the depths of the earth after a catastrophic event that took place 1,000 years ago. We open up on Peach in Rogueport, and she's just chilling out next to its signature noose. Hell yeah, this game is for children. She stumbles across a mysterious hooded figure who begs that she buys from her, and Peach decides that nothing else matters, she has no shame, she's going to buy a box. The hooded figure tells her that this box contains a map that reveals all of the secrets of the town that once stood here, and upon opening it, Peach is enveloped by a beam of light. We cut to Paracari from the first game, which is such a neat callback, and it's nice to see that he hasn't been burdened with unemployment. Yet. He delivers a letter to this here house. Now, who does this house belong to? Paper Mario. What the f*** is he doing in this game? And Paper Luigi. And they discover that the letter is from Peach. She's basically begging us to come help her search for the treasure. We hop on a boat and head to Rogueport. Adventure awaits, I swear. We arrive in the town and the captain of the boat we rode in on not so subtly tells us this place is f***ed, turn back. We of course ignore this, only to find a young Goomba being harassed by an M-rated Teletubby. I'm starting to think that guy might have been onto something. The head honcho of the interrogation station over here is none other than Lord Crump. And this guy just won't stop flapping his lip about these things called the Crystal Stars, and also abduction. Mario somehow gets roped into fighting the oversized grape, and would you look at that? It's battle system analysis o'clock. I was wondering why I suddenly felt more lonely. The battle system in the Thousand Year Door is fundamentally the same thing as the last game, but with a few key differences. And you better get ready to hear me say that never more times. The action commands seen in 64 are here from the beginning this time around, and they feel so good to pull off on the GameCube's controller. I can't even really describe it, but these controls just feel at home on this controller. It could also be because the N64's control stick would be better off as a toothpick. There's also the addition of stylish moves, basically a typical action command, but with more pizzazz. These have a much more particular timing than standard action commands, and man, I am just no good at these things. Your social status really plummets after revealing a fact like that. Now, in the original Paper Mario, battles were just that. You'd fight a guy and then move on with your day. But in the Thousand Year Door, this shit's a performance. During every battle, you can see a crowd of characters watching your every move, and the better you do, the more impressed the crowd will be, and this can work to your advantage. The crowd can throw bonuses at you such as HP and SP, which we'll get into in a little bit, don't you worry yourself. But sometimes there'll be enemies in the crowd who'll try and throw things to hurt you, so you really need to keep an eye on the crowd at all times during these battles, which is just another layer of immersion and complexity added to an already fantastic battle system, which I really appreciate. The leveling up system also returns from 64, along with badge points, flower points, and health points. If you earn enough star points, or SP, in battle, then you'll level up, allowing you to upgrade any of these 3 points. If you only upgrade your health, then you might also be a fan of decapitation. Anyway, we kick Crump in the crump hole, and then we're subjected to a cult. They try to diagnose us with assault and battery, but luckily for us, we're immune. We run into town, which is something that Crump just refuses to comprehend, and when we arrive, we can finally be introduced to Goombella, this game's equivalent of Goombario from the first game. Turns out, she's also here to look for the legendary treasure, but before you can discuss it anymore, Toadsworth is here. Surprise! We ask him about the whereabouts of the princess, and the biggest plot twist in the entirety of the Mario franchise is dropped on us. Because she was here, but now she isn't. After hearing this, Goombella decides she wants to help find Peach, and with that, she joins our party.
That's right, partners are back, bitches! Which means my family tradition of talking about every single partner in a Paper Mario game can live on, and will do for every other game. Now, functionally, the partners in this game are pretty damn similar to those found in Paper Mario 64, but they make up for that by having stories and motivations that go beyond simply, "Sure, I've got time and a lust for blood. I'm in."
Goombella is a student of the University of Goom, and suddenly all that matters is finding out what she studies. She has a base moveset of Tattle and Headbonk, and Tattle is also her overworld ability. She's a carbon copy of Goombario in terms of functionality, as all of these moves work exactly the same as his did. Now, I'd love to keep talking your ear off about Goombella, but I'm currently preoccupied with Toadsworth. He tells us that Peach is missing, and Goombella just refuses to be okay with that. She tells us her professor might be able to help us decipher the map, because come on, did you really think Mario could do it himself? We find the wrinkly old bugger, and he tells us that the map holds the secrets of the treasure of the Thousand Year Door. So we take to the sewers to try and locate it. Along the way, we find a totally, not even in the slightest, cursed box. That is just begging to be opened. And when we do, because we don't know what evil is even when it's hurling insults at us, we are cursed with the ability to turn into a paper airplane by pressing the Y button in certain spots.
Oh, that's so helpful!
We get multiple of these curses throughout the game, and they each allow us to traverse the land in a different way. And I can't stress this enough, neat shit. We reach the Thousand Year Door, and with that, the credits roll. It reveals the location of the first crystal star on our map, and our adventure begins.
Well, 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 would you look at that. We survived the prologue, which means I get to return to my roots and give a brief overview of each of the game's chapters. An overview so brief that it's gonna take me 40 minutes. Now, I'm coming into Thousand Year Door from a slightly different perspective than I did the original Paper Mario. With that game, the story was never really the element that I heard the most praise about. Despite how good it was, it still played it pretty safe. But with Thousand Year Door, on the other hand, this is considered by many to be one of the greatest Mario stories ever told, so I'm coming into this sucker with some seriously high expectations. Now, as much as I'd love to start with Chapter 5, we're going to be tackling these guys chronologically, so let's cut the bullshit and start our journey with Chapter 1.
Chapter 1 sees us heading to Petal Meadows to track down the first crystal star, and upon arriving, we see a dragon fly towards a nearby castle. Goombella, with her vastly superior intellect, reaches the conclusion that, oh f***, this can't be good.
The University of Goom truly forms the greatest minds.
We make our way to the town of Petalburg, where the mayor kindly informs us that Hooktail, the dragon we just saw, has been terrorizing the town, and in order to grab the crystal star and be on our merry way, we have to cheat death and kill the dragon with nothing more than a hammer and shoes. Thanks. But you just wait a second now, because that isn't all we have. We'll also have a turtle. Everybody, might I introduce you to Coops, who... Oh. Never mind then, I guess. We head out of town to Schwank Fortress, also known as my bedroom, to retrieve 2 stone keys that will grant us access to the Beast's castle. Of course, the only way to get a hold of these keys is by partaking in a quiz show, and my god, I really hope the Paper Mario series never stops doing this. It's such a dumb thing, but they're really enjoyable, and really help show off the charm and character of the series. After we grab the keys, we head back to town, and we run into Coops again, who suddenly begs to join us in kicking the shit out of Hooktail. You see, his dad left to defeat the Beast long ago, but after years of him not returning, Coops was left to believe that his father was killed by the dragon. Coops wants to avenge his father, and to prove to himself that he has the courage and bravery to do what must be done, and with that, he joins our party. Coops has a base moveset of Shell Toss and Power Shell, and his overworld ability sees him being thrown along the ground in gaps to grab items, break blocks, or hit enemies. Now tell me, where the f*** have I seen that before? Coops is the Koopa de Goombella's Goombario, and with that sentence right there, I've officially had my first stroke. This is only in terms of functionality, however. Koopa was something of a blank slate in the original game, whereas Coops is an adorable ball of anxiety who wants nothing more than to prove himself to those around him. We make our way to Hooktail's castle, and we find a skeleton that Coops seems to recognize. He reads the letter clutched in the lifeless hands of what he believes to be his father, and Hooktail's weakness is revealed. Turns out this isn't Coops' dad, though. False alarm. Colorado is the one who the letter was written for, and if that name isn't immediately ringing bells, which means that you have a life, we venture to Mount Lava Lava with him in Chapter 5 of the original game, which is another really neat callback. But his dad is fucking dead now, Jesus Christ. It's fine though, because we finally know how to not become Dragon Dinner. And of course, after that emotional rollercoaster, we reach the dragon, and after she eats some of the audience, we kick her so hard she gets flipped 90 degrees. That's how you know we've done a lot of damage. We then play a fun round of Why Was That in Your Stomach, as Coops' dad is spat back into the realm of existence, with the crystal star that he stole from inside the belly of the beast. Hooray for convenience! And with a family reunited, we grab the crystal star and draw Chapter 1 to a close. Much like in 64, every chapter concludes with an update on Peach, and this is where we're properly introduced to the X-Nauts, the same walking marshmallows who were given Goombella the old abuse treatment. They now have Peach and a lust for Mario's blood. Sir Grodus is the man in charge around here, and he's informed that Mario has obtained the first crystal star, which makes him so mad that he summons 3 demons. And fellas, let me tell you, this happens to me at least once a week. It's so nice to have a video game character I can relate to for once. Peach decides that instead of trying to find out more about the group of heavily armed soldiers who intend to destroy the person she is closest to, she would rather let nudity reign supreme. And with this shower scene in the books, Paper Mario the Thousand-Year Door is officially in the runnings for the horniest Mario game. As any normal person would do after showering in the presence of a cult, Peach introduces herself to Tech, the computer helping the X-Nauts get shit done. But it does have a designated slot in its timetable that allows Peach to email Mario, which works out pretty damn nicely for us. The Paper Mario 64 comparisons don't end there, god no. What, did you think this was a new game or something? After each crystal star is saved, we gain a new ability to use in battle. And this is the exact same shtick as before. They're very limited moves that are massively powerful, and overall, I honestly think I prefer the roster we have in this game. I found myself distraught over the fact that I couldn't use the moves way more often this time around. If there's more glowing praise any person or thing could receive, then I'd like to hear it. We already got one of these moves from the map we obtained in Rogueport, that being Sweet Treat, the most fucking delicious sounding move in Mario's arsenal. Thank God for its existence. And the first crystal star grants us the ability Earth Tremor. I feel like that wouldn't be difficult considering everything in this world is made from something so easily broken.
How the f did that happen? Now, most people would probably be pretty content with how the story is developing so far, but from the beginning of Chapter 1, I've been fucking pissed! You see, the Bowser to no Bowser ratio so far in this game has been disgusting, so the trees in my neighborhood better prepare themselves for an uprising. Great, now I'm gonna have to find something else to bitch about. What else would I do? Allow myself to enjoy the game?
We cut to Bowser's castle, where Bowser's just there, doing his own Bowser thing. That is until... holy f***ing shit. We can make him war! My thumbs are doing this! Thousand Year Door is the Bowser's Fury we never knew we had. And then Cammy tells him about Mario and Peach and they head off to Rawk. I'm too busy letting my thumb recover from such a life-changing experience to give a shit right now. Bring on Chapter 2! Chapter 2 sees us heading to Bogley Woods to find the Great Tree, the home of the Punies, a brand new species in this game, and to my knowledge, the first time the Paper Mario series invented an entirely new species. And man, these guys are adorable. How could you possibly only have them in one game? Turns out the tree was taken over by the X-Goons, and most of the Punies are being held captive. And as if this wasn't bad enough, the Punies' enemies, the Jabbies, have been allowed to run riot in the tree. Upon arriving, we are hit with the soul-crushing news that the tree is locked and we can't get in. So Punio, one of the only tree escapees, suggests that we go and find Madame Flurry, a character who somehow made it into a game with a 3+ rating. Let's retaliate by moving Thousand Year Door up the leaderboard. Unfortunately for us, little Miss Peggy 18 over here has lost her necklace. So take a wild shot in the dark as to what we'll be getting up to next. On our search, we bump into the 3 demons from before, and they're engaging in some fun bullying. The older 2 are just going to town on the only bearable one in the trio, but they're willing to put that aside to make Mario miserable. We deliver a smackdown 3 times the size of your average smackdown, and in their desperate hurry to get the f*** away from us, they drop a lace that's fit for any neck. This lace has a particular neck it would like to reside on, however, so we head back to Flurry to deliver it to her. And after pushing the boundaries of rewarding somebody as far as they'll go before Miyamoto has an aneurysm, also known as a leaderboard shake-up, she joins our party. Flurry is the first partner in the game that is completely unique, not just a rehash of a partner from 64, and she has a base moveset consisting of Body Slam, an ability that Bombette had. And Gale Force, which is a gust of wind that can remove enemies from battle. Much like Chibi Robo Ziplash, Flurry's overworld ability is blowing, and man, she could just blow these little guys all day. And that's pretty much all we get up to for the rest of this chapter, as after we've entered the tree, we free a bunch of captive Punies, use them to solve puzzles, and of course, whoa! Crump returns, everybody, and he steals the Crystal Star. But lucky for me, he's allergic to the bottom of my shoe, even if he has a badass mech to hide inside of. And with the Punies finally freed, we grab the second Crystal Star and draw the curtains on Chapter 2. Back at the X-Goon headquarters, Sir Grodus is informed of Mario's recent triumphs. But who the hell cares when we get to play as Peach and make her dance with herself in order to convince a computer to allow us to send an email to Mario? Why wasn't this on the back of the box again? Speaking of things that should be on the back of the box, prepare yourself for the most pure form of bliss you'll ever experience. Prepare yourself for potentially the single greatest piece of evidence that this is the greatest game ever made. Are you ready to take the plunge?
Yes! This was so worth the crippling debt!
And then Bowser proceeds to talk to a window before we move on to Chapter 3. Why don't more people have a crush on this guy? We learn to move Clog out from the second Crystal Star and move on to Chapter 3, which has a much bigger build-up than most other chapters. In order to get to Glitzville, a floating island in the sky where this chapter takes place, we have to go see Dom Pianta, a mob boss who offers us a blimp ticket that'll take us where we need to be. Sounds good, but what's the catch?
He's a mob boss. What do you think the catch is?
We have to find his daughter and her boyfriend, and get this, I did. He gives us the tickets and stops holding our souls hostage, and we head to Glitzville. If there was ever a chapter that shows off the personality and creativity of Thousand Year Door more than any other award, then Chapter 3 would have it sat proudly on its mantelpiece. Because this is potentially the greatest chapter in this game. That's right, I said it, and I'm sticking by that opinion. You can't stop me. F you, Prologue fans. We enter the Glitz Pit, a wickedly popular place in which fighters from all around the world come to beat the snot out of each other. And we want to get involved in this because we can see the next Crystal Star on the champion's belt. And our only purpose in life from this point forward is to grab it. The current champion is Rawk. Wait a minute, but that's...
I'm Rawk, but the champion is Rawk, and we have to defeat him. So it's me against me. The only way I can progress is by defeating myself. Oh, the timeline will love that one!
From here on out, I will refer to this guy exclusively as me. Buckle up. We sign up to fight and we take down a colourful cast of creatures on our journey to defeat me. And along the ride we find and hatch an egg, giving birth to a baby Yoshi. But man, calling it baby Yoshi will get really repetitive. And Nintendo knew this, which is why they gave us the ability to name the Yoshi. So please welcome Spunk Junkie. Spunk Junkie can be a number of different colours, and which one you get is random. If you're colourblind, you are no longer entitled to Spunk Junkie. I don't make the rules, that's just how it has to be. Oh, and he joins our party. Shocking. Spunk Junkie has a base moveset of ground pound and gulp. Name me a more Spunk Junkie moveset, I dare you. His overworld ability is also very him, allowing us to ride him for a speed boost and a way to cross gaps that Mario couldn't ordinarily cross. Within reason. Now, if you'll pardon my fucking French, I'd like to scold myself for what I just said. You see, we know this guy is Mario, but Spunk Junkie reveals his true identity to be Gonzalez. We've been living a lie. Anyway, we discover through the aid of spam emails that the crystal star on my belt is about as real as my bank account details. Without spam emails, I would have never known these two things were fake. They're a lifesaver. Turns out the clown in charge of this place has the real deal, so we expose all of his secrets and try to get him fired. What else would we do? And there is absolutely no way this can backfire. God fucking damn it. Tubba Blubba strikes back in the form of something fucking disgusting. So disgusting that I need to make it die. But not before Bowser tries to steal the show. Christ, I wouldn't even think about that. We nab the totally for realsies and totally not fakesies crystal star, and we say goodbye to the concept of ever fighting me. What a travesty. The end of chapter 3 is nothing special. We go undercover as an X-Naut to find out that Grodus is planning to use the crystal stars to take over the world. Yikes, right? And now we play as Bowser trying to find a crystal star we already found. He throws a fit about Mario being greedy, and to put it bluntly, on to chapter 4. But wait just a tick, we learn the move Power Lift from the third crystal star. No, I think I stand by what I said. Chapter 4 it is. Chapter 4 sees us going to Twilight Town, and upon our arrival, we discover that the entire town is under a curse where every time the bell in the creepy steeple chimes, a citizen is turned into a pig. What unfortune! The curse was cast by the monster inside the steeple, and we head over there to put an end to it. We find the monster and a battle ensues, and during the battle it steals Gonzalez's body, leaving us as a shadowy mess. Man, my weekend is ruined! Super Fraudio nabs the crystal star and runs off with our partners who are too fucking stupid to realize that Mario suddenly looks like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. But really, I'm not surprised. Does this look like the face of an intellectual to you? Back in town, the demon ladies are planning to eradicate us with the Super Bomb, but Beldam lost it, so she proceeds to be bitchy with Vivian. We help Vivian find the bomb that's being used to destroy us.
Because we're such kind people.
We tell her about the whole body stealing fiasco we have going on, and she decides to join our party. Vivian has a base moveset of Shade Fist, which allows her to punch an enemy so hard they burn, and Veil, which hides Mario in the shadows for a turn. This is also her overworld ability, making her functionally pretty similar to Bo. We were so close to a new tomorrow. Mr. Face Thief returns and says he will give our body back if we can guess his name. And no, unfortunately, his name isn't Harold Wilson. I checked. Of course, the only way to find out his name is to spy on his pet parrot. So guess what our next objective is? We find out his name is Dupless, the name of my future son. We go back to confront him, and again, our partners are so fucking brain dead that they blindly follow the verbal instructions of the once mute Gonzalez. And now they're trying to fight us. God damn it. We kick his ass and get ourselves back. Our partners realize the error of their ways, and we nab the crystal star. In the X-Goon base, Peach takes part in a quiz that reveals that the treasure behind the Thousand-Year Door is actually an ancient demon. Meanwhile, Bowser tries to get into Glitzville. He fails, and yes! The only thing that could possibly follow that is getting the move Art Attack from the fourth crystal star. Holy shit! Holy shit!
The Thousand-Year Door does it again!
Chapter 5 sees us heading to the island of Heel Hall Key, but in order to get there, we need to find Admiral Bobbery, the greatest sea captain who ever lived, or something like that.
Now, when people talk about how good the story is in this game, Admiral Bobbery is usually the first thing they'll jump to. Because who doesn't want to get emotionally attached to a bomb for the second time this year?
Bobbery used to travel the world on his boat, but during one trip, his wife Scarlet fell ill. She wrote a letter to him from her deathbed, but before she could hand deliver it to him, she sadly passed away. After hearing this news, Bobbery resigned from the sailor's life, blaming himself for what happened to his wife. The letter from Scarlet tells Bobbery how much joy he gave her, and that even though he will mourn for her, he must never give up his love for the sea. And this is what motivated Bobbery to join us on our journey. Is now a good time to say that he's functionally identical to Bombette? Because I somehow feel like it isn't. After this, we make our way to the island and we get ambushed, leaving us completely shipwrecked. We set up camp near the shore of the island and we're set the task of exploring to make sure there's no imminent threats, which is a pretty vital thing to do, so why not? We find 3 of our crewmates being ambushed again, and Bobbery sacrifices himself to keep everybody safe. After his brave sacrifice, we find him weakened, so we fulfill his final wish. We bring him cola. This revives him and he rejoins our party, which means we're off to explore the island some more. We make our way through a really fun and interesting cave, and we find a ship full of treasure. And this is where we encounter Cortex, the skeletal gerbil? I have no idea what this thing's supposed to be. We kill the already dead thing and he turns out to be a pretty chill guy, as he willingly hands over the crystal star and allows us to go. Turns out one of our shipmates was actually Crump in disguise, and he tries to blow us to bits with his own ship. But luckily for me, we have the power of the dead on our side, haha! Crump fails and all is right with the world, so we move on to chapter 6. In the X-Goon headquarters, Peach is given an invisibility potion by Tech, and she uses it to steal a disc containing valuable data. How dare she? Bowser, on the other hand, is too busy trying to go to war, but he gets diagnosed with incompetency and ends up blowing everyone here to smithereens. That could have gone better. We learn the move Sweet Feast from the 5th crystal star. Yay! Chapter 6 sees us heading to Poshley Heights, and in order to get there, we must ride the XS Express. And this, right here, is my favourite chapter in the entire game.
Now I know, you must be absolutely fucking dumbfounded by me saying that, seeing as earlier on I said...
Because this is potentially the greatest chapter in this game.
I was a different man back then, and also, this one has a train, it was always gonna have the upper hand.
Mario received a flavorful threat saying that if he doesn't get off the train right now, he's f***ed. Many of the passengers have had items stole from them, and all of these strange happenings culminate in a 2-day-long mystery, where everybody on the train is a suspect and we have to prove our innocence with the help of Inspector Pennington. This is fundamentally an evolution of Chapter 7 from the original game, but if you ask me, the execution in Thousand Year Door is infinitely better. The whole atmosphere of the train and the genuine mystery surrounding the entire situation is so enjoyable. I absolutely loved this chapter, and finally solving the mystery was exhilarating. Until the train gets attacked by a giant monster who kidnaps everybody who dares to breathe, but it's fine because we kill it. We reach Poshley Heights and we need to enter the Poshley Sanctum, which actually belongs to Pennington. And after we explore it for a good solid 14 hours, we find the Crystal Star and wrap up my favorite chapter of the game. And now I'm sad. The X-Goons have learned of Tech's traitorous behaviors, and they try to reset him, but not before he can reveal to Peach that they are actually on the moon. Mario Galaxy, eat your heart out. Bowser is still on the hunt for Crystal Stars, and after another section of yes! He ends up in my locker room, and I'm not having any of that, which leads to this.
This isn't even the first time Bowser's sat on me.
I can't decide what would make a better pillow for him. Me, or the move Showstopper that we learned from the 6th Crystal Star. I just can't make my mind up. Chapter 7 is home to the final Crystal Star, and it's up on the moon in the X-Naut Fortress. But in order to get there, we need to travel to Far Outpost, a cozy little village in the middle of a frozen tundra. From here, we need to be fired from the town's cannon, which will send us to the moon because who needs rockets? We find and enter the X-Naut Fortress, and man, it's really cool to be exploring this place as Mario after seeing snippets of it through Peach in the chapter interludes. And even on top of that, it's just really fun to traverse. Eventually, we find Lord Crump, who has a new and improved mech that he can't wait for us to destroy. And when we do, Crump gets exiled from being a thing, and he drops the final Crystal Star. How nice of him! After grabbing the star, we find Tech running on backup energy, and he tells us that Peach has been taken to the Palace of Shadow, which lies beyond the 1000-year door. And with all 7 Crystal Stars in hand, it's finally time for us to head beyond the door ourselves, and put an end to this quest. But not before learning the move Supernova. I'm not insane. We're finally here. The final chapter of the 1000-Year Door, appropriately titled the 1000-Year Door. And man, does this place ever like to put you to the test. As well as the abundance of enemies and puzzles, there are also multiple boss fights in a row, being Gloomtail, the older brother of Hooktail, the Shadow Sirens, Sir Grodus, and Bowser and Cammy. Jesus Christ, I did not wake up expecting that many people to want to hit my ankles with a scooter. Grottus reveals that he has Peach in captivity, and he promptly makes his escape, taking the princess to the deepest part of the palace, where he opens a sealed coffin and unleashes the Shadow Queen. With the Shadow Queen set free, the world is shrouded in darkness. And with that, the Shadow Queen possesses Princess Peach and gives birth to the greatest form of princess the Mario series has ever seen. This is badass! Sir Grottus instructs the Shadow Queen to do his bidding because he's the one who summoned her. And in response, he gets bitch slapped into the grave. Turns out, Beldam was the mastermind behind this entire plot. She was the one that made all of this happen. But before we can find out more, the Shadow Queen herself tries to get us to be her slave. But when we refuse, the fight to end all fights begins. This fight is incredible! The first phase sees us fighting her in her standard form, but once we do enough damage to her, she converts to her true form where she's invincible. And just when it seems like all hope is lost, the crystal stars break free and return to where they were found, allowing the world to remain for just a little bit longer, which causes every single character we've met so far to cheer for Mario, giving him the motivation, the strength, the power to take down the evil queen. The hope of all the people counting on us is enough to break the queen's invincibility. It's enough for Peach to be able to give us the last of her power. It's enough for us to seal away the Shadow Queen for the rest of eternity. It is enough for us to save the world. And with that, the story of the Thousand-Year Door is drawn to a close. And now that I've finally beaten this game, I can now issue an official statement on all of the Paper Mario fans who want the series to go back. So many people dislike where the series went after this game, and think that the newer games are lesser experiences. They think that the Thousand-Year Door is one of the greatest and most ambitious games Nintendo has ever made. They think Nintendo's refusal to go back to this style of Paper Mario is absolutely ludicrous and is one of the biggest contributing factors leading to people shoving this game down Nintendo's throat whenever they do so much as mention Paper Mario. And my stance on that is that they're absolutely right. Paper Mario the Thousand-Year Door is one of the best games Nintendo has ever made. And as such, it's one of the greatest games I've ever played. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. My biggest gripe is that in my 50-hour playthrough, I was so done with battling around 10 hours before the end. It got really tedious in the back end of the game, but that's probably because I took my time with this one. I didn't look up guides, I went in completely blind and tried to do everything as legitimately and naturally as I could. If I knew what I was doing, my playtime would have been shorter, and I probably wouldn't have this gripe to begin with. The soundtrack is absolutely blissful, and it can't be understated how much it enhances every single aspect of the game. I mean, come on. The main theme is objectively the greatest piece of music ever conceived by man. The characters are so unique and allow the world of this game to come to life. They're all so alive and really damn charming. The ending sequence is literally Goombella telling us what all of our partners are getting up to after the events of the story. Which other Mario game would do that? Now, I've only played 3 games in the series so far, only one of which being modern, so don't take any of this to mean that I don't like the Origami King. I personally love it to pieces, but looking at these 2 games objectively compared to each other, I think it's easy to see which one is deemed better and why.
Paper Mario the Thousand-Year Door takes every single good thing about the original game and expands upon it to an unbelievable degree. This is obvious throughout the entirety of the game, but if you ask me, nowhere is this more clear than in Rogueport.
In Paper Mario 64, Toad Town is the main hub of the game, and while it's a fantastic place, it's hardly anything out of the ordinary for the Mario series. It feels very safe. But when we look at Rogueport, it couldn't be further on the opposite end of the spectrum if it tried. Rogueport is a run-down, deprived town rife with crime. This place is completely unlike anywhere Mario has ever been before. For Christ's sake, the town has a noose as a centerpiece. This place is so un-Mario-like. And yet, it's the hub world. This is the one constant in this game that you'll continually return to time and time again. And on top of that, almost all of the chapters are accessed through its sewers. The dark, dingy depths of the town are where you have to go for pretty much every single chapter. How did this happen and why do I love it so much? But it's not just Rogueport. So many of the concepts and locales take an idea from the original game and put an extremely unique and fun twist on them to make them feel worlds apart. A lot of the partners function similarly to the ones ones in the original, so they add a heap load of story onto them to make them feel new and fresh. Every idea this game borrows from the original is expanded upon exponentially to make this game the definitive Paper Mario experience.
And I think that makes The Thousand Year Door a flawless sequel.
It is the perfect follow-up to the N64 game, and because of how well it executes everything it brings to the table, I almost feel obligated to say that this is one of the greatest Nintendo games of all time. And after how great this game was, not only for how well it evolves the original, but how amazing it is by its own merits, well, let's just say it's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of the games in the series follow this one up. But those games will never have Ms. Mouse. She's an optional partner with a base moveset of Love Slap and Kiss Thief, and if that wasn't enough of a hint for you, she likes to get her paws and rat teeth all over Mario at any chance she gets. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have a new winner. Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door is officially the horniest Mario game ever released. We did it! Hell yes!
Another thing those games won't have is a second story. What am I talking about, you may ask? Well, just like 95% of the time, I'm talking about Luigi. Super Luigi to be precise. A series of books written by the Green Cloud Plumber while he's off on his own adventure because Mario neglected to care about him in this game. The book series is 5 installments long and details Luigi's journey to the Waffle Kingdom to save Princess Eclair. And along the way, he forms his own ragtag team of partners, who we meet after most of the game's chapters in Rogueport. However, most of the crew only stick around with Luigi because he owes them massively due to him doing what he does best and f***ing everything up. If I'm being totally honest and completely serious, Super Luigi deserves a discussion of its own, and I will not die happy until the deed is done. But, at the very least, we can discuss the 5 partners that Luigi meets on his quest. Louie is a blooper and is the first to join Luigi's party, and after the two head to Rumble Bump Volcano, Luigi trips and sends Bluey crashing into lava, which turns him from the white torpedo he's known as, into the golden tan colour he is today. Jerry is a cherry who travels to Plump Belly Village with Luigi, where Luigi dresses up as a bride in order to be offered to a 2-headed snake as a sacrifice, which in itself is enough for them to defeat the snake. Jerry sticks with Luigi with the sole intention of ensuring that nobody has to see Luigi in a wedding dress again. It ain't a wedding, but I still count this as a loss on Jerry's part. Torg is a spike top who travels to Circuit Break Island with Luigi to assemble the Marvelous Compass. In order to obtain a piece of the Marvelous Compass, Luigi must win a race, and he does so by destroying every other car that's participating. Torg sticks with Luigi until he can pay for all of the damages. Hazy is a crazy daisy who lives in Jazzafraz Town, where an event called the annual Jazzafraz Town Drama Slam is taking place. The prize for winning is another part of the Marvelous Compass, so Luigi joins Hazy's cast and stars in his debut role as Grass. And they win. Hazy is the only partner who actually likes Luigi, and she wants to take her play all over the world, but that won't be possible if Luigi doesn't reprise his role. And finally, Screamy is an ice cream who travels to Raptorous Ruins with Luigi. The only reason that's given as to why this bubble bath is sticking with Luigi is that he needs to deliver something. Super Luigi is arguably better than the Thousand Year Door. The only reason the Paper Mario series changed so drastically was to prepare us for the launch of this game. It'll happen one day.
All in all, I'd say this game more than justified my paper buying addiction, and it taught me how great paper truly can be. I should probably go see someone about my addiction though. It's getting really out of hand. I just keep seeing paper-based products and telling myself that I won't buy them until suddenly, son of a bitch! Hey, what's up? It's your boy Rawk, and I am pissed! Recently, the gaming industry has fallen victim to the dimensions fad. Whether it be 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions, and sometimes even 4, every developer is trying to cram as many dimensions as possible into their games, and I, for one, am tired of it. I wish we could go back to the glory days of gaming, where games would be given 1 dimension and would have to make do. And the worst part is, some games aren't even content with picking 1 number. For example, this game has 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions. That's 5 fucking dimensions! Who allowed this?
3 dimensions are overrated. Let's get back to basics, shall we? By 2006, the Paper Mario series was hitting its stride. The Thousand Year Door was a couple of years old by this point, and people were in love with that game. Sure, it wasn't the hottest seller in the world, but if you played that game, then you had a soul. So if a game is a big success, the question has to be asked, where's the sequel? Holy shit. Pretty much right after development wrapped up on the Thousand Year Door, another Paper Mario game was already being brainstormed by the series producer Ryota Kawada, and he specifically wanted to create other types of games using the Paper Mario series. Well, he sure got what he wanted. The project began development on the Nintendo GameCube, and as such, the team wanted to make something that was very distinct from the Thousand Year Door. They looked at the 2D Bowser sections from that game and justifiably thought an entire game in that style was the next logical step for the series.
I mean, who could blame them, really?
So with that decided, a sequel to the Thousand Year Door was slung into development, but around the middle of its development cycle, Nintendo's next system was right around the corner, then codenamed the Nintendo Revolution. With its motion controls and new analog stick, it was the perfect platform for a 2D Paper Mario game. A lot of late-life GameCube projects were making their way over to the Revolution around that time. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess famously released on both platforms, Nintendo were considering a Super Smash Bros. Melee port with online play, and the new Play Control line saw a bunch of GameCube games make the jump with some enhancements. The Wii was pretty much the GameCube 2 when it comes to power and graphical capabilities, so it was very easy for developers to make the jump with their GameCube projects. Guess what happened? And so on September 14th, 2007 here in the UK, the project was fully realized as a platformer with RPG elements, known only as Super Paper Mario. Oh, Super Paper Mario. The first game in the Paper Mario series that I enjoyed. It wasn't the first one I played, but it was the first one I enjoyed, so that's gotta count for something. That's right, unlike every other game so far, this isn't my first Super Paper Mario rodeo, more like my second or third. I played this game when I was younger and absolutely loved it. But I haven't played it since, which means that all of my good memories with it are absolutely drowning in... Son of a bitch, I thought you were gonna say mayonnaise.
This game is definitely the black sheep of the Paper Mario series. It's not a forgotten game by any means, but most of the time when you see people talking about Paper Mario, this game is very rarely thrown into the convo.
I mean, when you do some critical thinking, it does begin to make sense. Before this game we had the face-melting heights of the Thousand Year Door, and after this game we got... mediocrity. And because of that, Super Paper Mario falls into this weird grey area, snugly between the two extremes the series is now infamous for. In the eyes of many, it doesn't really fit into either category, so it's just left out of the discussion most of the time.
Well, that's the thing. Even when this game is acknowledged, it's pretty damn divisive. People either love it, or they hate it. Which side of the fence am I on? Well, there's only one way to find out.
Today we're being told a story of the Dark Book of Prophecies, a book that was said to hold the future of anybody who dared to read within its pages. But what the book doesn't specify is that reading it comes with a lifetime subscription to depression. None who have read the book ever found true happiness, because apparently the one thing you aren't supposed to do with this book is read it. It came to be known as the Dark Prognosticus, and on that gleeful note, we cut to Paper Mario.
Why the can't I escape you?
And Paper Luigi, they're having a lovely peaceful day. So peaceful that Luigi is bored shitless. Bitch, we have an 18-hour-long game to get through. We don't have time to be bored. The bros decide that they want to go visit Princess Peach, and wouldn't you know it, as they're leaving, a crazed Toad stumbles in to announce that the princess has been kidnapped. Is anybody surprised at this point? Well, I'm sure Luigi would be, because we learn that he has dementia, as he tries to explain that that bad guy must have stole Peach. Buddy, you can stay home if you aren't feeling well. We head over to the castle of that bad guy in order to thwart his plan and take back the princess. But when we get there, Bowser hasn't even begun his attack on the Mushroom Kingdom. In fact, we arrive in the midst of him planning the attack. So needless to say, a conclusion of confusion is reached on both sides. But I'm willing to let that slide because this is the first time in the series that we get any sort of interaction between Luigi and Bowser. I love it. But of course, we just aren't allowed to be happy anymore, as this bliss is rudely interrupted by this game's main villain, Count Black. This bastard has stolen Princess Peach and declares that she'll be used to destroy all worlds, and in retaliation, Mario's foot decides it wants to know what Count Black's face tastes like. Well, that could have gone better. Everybody else in the castle is sucked into Black's pants, and we cut to a wedding altar.
Did I miss a page?
Black has brought Peach and Bowser together to marry each other, and the princess has multiple questions that aren't limited to who, what, when, where, and why. Black asks the couple if they'll stick together till their games be over, and Nastasia, Count Black's assistant, hypnotizes Peach into compliance. And the wedding of the evil king and the pure princess brings forth the Chaos Heart. But before we can learn just what the hell one of those is, Luigi's here, everybody, and he's on a mission to... everything up.
He knows what he's best at.
We cut back to Mario, who's awoken by a mysterious voice in Bowser's castle. Turns out the voice belongs to this here butterfly, who's better known around these parts as Tibby. Tibby takes us to Flipside, the dimension between dimensions, and this game's hub world. We're introduced to Merlin, who is the owner of the only thing that can counteract the prophecies of the dog Prognosticus, that being the light Prognosticus. Funny how that works out. Merlin shows us that there is a void looming above Flipside that extends to all dimensions. A void that is growing at an alarming rate, and if its growth isn't thwarted, all worlds will be consumed. The light Prognosticus foretold that a hero matching Mario's exact appearance would arrive to put a stop to the void. Now, you would assume this means Mario, but just give me a sec here. Yeah, it's Mario. Merlin presents us with the first of 8 pure hearts, the direct counter to the Chaos Heart. And then he asks what most people ask me when I first meet them, am I willing to save all worlds from destruction?
Nah, I'm not really feeling it today. Goddamn. Fine, I'll do it.
The first pure heart is thrust into our possession, and with that, we're greeted by a phrase that rivals end of chapter for how damn iconic it is. Now that we have a pure heart, we need to find its heart pillar, which of course means that we finally get to take control of Mario.
It's about f***ing time. I've missed that good old Paper Mario Overworld gameplay, so let's get right into... Okay, everything I know is a lie. Good to know.
I somehow hadn't gathered this from the fact that everything in this game so far has taken place with a dimension deficiency, but Super Paper Mario is a 2D platformer, which is definitely a huge departure from the previous 2 games, and is also potentially the most contentious subject surrounding this game. A lot of people lament the fact that the tried and true gameplay they loved is no longer there, and I absolutely get that. When you see the words Mario and Paper within a 5-mile radius of each other, your mind's going to immediately jump to this, and many people just don't understand why Nintendo would change what was working so well. It's because this is much better, you fucking idiot. After 2016's little incident, I'm legally obligated to tell you that platformers are my favourite types of games. I love 2D and 3D games in the genre pretty much equally, so seeing that Paper Mario made the jump to this genre is fascinating to me. Is there anything wrong with the turn-based RPG approach of the original 2 games? Absolutely not. In fact, I actually think that they fit the series a whole lot better. They lend themselves to the paper aesthetic so much better than a 2D platformer, because, you know, everything's already flat in these games, making it paper-based just seems redundant. I think Nintendo knew this too, because this game leans pretty heavily into a more digital aesthetic, which is evident throughout pretty much the entire game. And with the combination of the genre shift and the thematic shift, this is a very different type of Paper Mario game, and I for one am absolutely drooling to see how this game plays out. So we find the heart pillar and a door appears on the top of Flipside Tower, and this door leads the way to Chapter 1. Now chapters work a lot differently in this game, and as such, so does the story progression. The chapters are split into 4 sections that each act like a typical 2D platforming stage, and the story beats only really happen at the beginning and end of each of these levels.
Now this may lead many to assume that this game is lacking in the story department, and I knew this concern would be abundant, so I went looking for answers ahead of time. The book doesn't lie.
Before each of the levels within a chapter, we're given a brief summary of the story heading into the level, and they provide a pretty decent amount of context as to what's going on. In the first 3 levels of a chapter, there generally aren't a massive amount of major story beats, and they're usually reserved for the 4th and final level of any chapter. And while this makes everything seem somewhat disjointed, in execution, it works really well and still manages to provide a coherent and consistent story in each and every one of the game's chapters.
You know what that means. It's time for me to let tradition be tradition and give a brief plot synopsis of each of the game's chapters. But something just doesn't feel right this time around. Oh, son of a bitch, it was battle system analysis o'clock 5 minutes ago. What the hell's going on here? Oh, shit!
Now I know, we already talked about how this game is 2D, but that in and of itself leaves a lot of gameplay elements from the first 2 Paper Mario games up in the air as to how or even if they're going to be implemented into this one. So, the battle system in this game is almost non-existent. You jump on enemies and they die. I don't want to alarm you, but this is all we can accomplish. This inherently leads to a lot of questions. Where are the action commands? Where are the partners? Where's the XP and leveling? Where are the items? Which I didn't really talk about in the first 2 games, but they're there, and they're here. But instead of taking out one enemy, if you're lucky, in this game, they can kill an entire screen of enemies. And like, yeah, I get why they're this effective. The enemies are piss weak, especially compared to enemies in the previous games, but it was never that much more effective than just pressing the jump button a couple of times. Now, the action commands are here, you just have to To perform action commands, you have to shake the Wii remote after landing on an enemy.
I wonder who's pissed about this.
Listen, I've played enough New Super Mario Bros. Wii in my time to not be bothered by intrusive motion controls anymore. I'm no bitch, I'll play Paper Mario like it's fucking tennis if I have to.
Eat Goomba!
This solution isn't perfect by any means, but considering this and this, I'm not sure what else they could have done, and that's fine. It gives my non-thumb body parts something to do for a while. The action commands then lead into this game's XP system, just like any action commands would. The more you're able to pull off action commands successfully, the more XP you'll gain. The more XP you'll gain, the more you'll level up. But this time around, you don't get to choose between HP, badge points, and flower points, because in this game, two of those things simply don't exist. Guess which one lived? Yeah, leveling up only increases your health in this game, not even your attack power, which sounds pretty lame. But that's only because you can deal double damage to enemies by collecting a card of them, which is the closest thing this game has to badges, which also don't return this time. This game could only include so much from the series past. It has Luigi, you're asking for a lot here. Now to many, this might make leveling up seem somewhat worthless, and if this system was in place in either of the past games, yeah, I'd have to agree. But battling is not as central of a mechanic anymore, so it not really achieving much for you makes sense here because it isn't a focal mechanic. And the health bonuses are actually good incentives to level up because the enemies in the later parts of the game can deal wicked amounts of damage. Again, on paper, this sounds like a bad change, and hell, to some people it may be, but in execution, I personally think it works really well. Okay, we've ticked items, action commands, and XP and leveling off the this game list. So, what's next? Well, partners, of course! Partners. Plural. More than one.
Who knew Mario was into polyamory?
So many people bitch and moan about how, oh, there aren't partners in this game. Well, wake up, you dumb f***. There's been one in front of you the entire time.
Oh, the tree!
Remember that butterfly we met earlier? Well, she was actually our first partner. What a mindfuck. First you tell me Mario was into polyamory, and then you tell me he's into butterflies. This is a lot for me to handle. Actually, the partners in this game are called pixels, so I guess the critics were right. There are no partners in this game. We meet the pixels in all of the game's chapters, and while they do have unique abilities, they aren't really all too helpful in battle, because this game barely even knows how to spell battle. Just like everybody's first love, Tippy here is this game's equivalent to Goombario. You point the Wii remote at the screen, touch anything that dares to exist, and boom, you just received a full-fledged biography. Tippy can also reveal secret platforms and doors, and this is required multiple times throughout the game. But I could never get the pointer controls to work properly, so whenever parts like this came up, I would always end up killing a fly.
David!
Tippy is actually a first for the Paper Mario series, in that she's constantly by your side. Even when you have other pixels out, she's always there, which is kind of symbolic, seeing as the story almost entirely surrounds her. But we are getting way ahead of ourselves here.
Okay, we've checked everything off the checklist, and hopefully that was enough to communicate that while there are a lot of differences here, at its core, this game still has all of the fundamental building blocks that make a great Paper Mario game. They're just executed in a new and interesting way, and if that wasn't enough... pass me the f***ing liquor. So, now that we finally got that out of the way, I have a sudden urge to jump to the midpoint of Chapter 1, and I think we should do that now because I need to know why!
About halfway through Chapter 1, we meet this guy, and after he attempts to rob us, he teaches us the dimensional flip ability. Oh, I wonder what this does.
What the fuck?
The past 20 minutes have been a lie! We can now flip into 3D, but only for a limited amount of time because being in heaven for too long would just make you cocky. But now we can find all sorts of things we couldn't before. Secret mandatory pathways, secret optional pathways, secret hints, hidden items, a will to live. Is there anything we can't do now? You will be flipping constantly after you get this ability, and it adds a lot more to the already pretty interesting locations in this game.
Like what, a third dimension?
This ability is great. It has a ton of utility, it's incredibly interesting, and really makes this game stand out. It fucks with my head, but I can't deny it is super.
And that is Super Paper Mario, a really unique entry in the Paper Mario series. Sure, its gameplay is different, but it's wildly enjoyable, and the story... Son of a bitch!
Guess who got carried away with talking about the gameplay and forgot to cover the main attraction of this game? I did. Alright, let's power through this one. It's going to take so damn long, considering the fact that this game is stuffed to bursting with story. But we'll be fine. So, let's do this. the transitions, we don't have time! Chapter 1 sees us heading to Lineland to meet Bastovius and learn the ability of a mental breakdown. We then climb Mount Lineland and reach Yuletown, where we meet the Pixel Throw, who, as his name implies, can be used to grab and throw items and enemies and many other forms of concrete matter. We use him to solve puzzles and cross the Yule Desert, where we meet up with one of Count Bleck's henchmen, O-Chunks. This guy is a total meathead who talks like a pirate and acts like Wario. And just like pretty much every character in this game, he's fucking hilarious. But that doesn't mean I'm not gonna step on him. He should consider himself lucky. People would usually have to pay for that privilege. After that encounter, we meet Fractail, the robotic dragon guarding the pure heart. They tried real dragons, but they just weren't cut out for it. Fractail is awaiting the hero of legend, and is ready and willing to grant us access to the pure heart, until Dimentio shows his creepy fucking face. Dimentio is another one of Count Bleck's henchmen, and this guy is basically a magician with cynical intentions and a warped sense of humor. I love him. However, I gotta dog points from him because he corrupts the dragon, forcing us to kill it in an incredibly violent fashion. On the whole, I'm not a fan of when characters do that. After our senseless slaughter, we head into the Sanctum of the Ruins and meet up with Merlumina, a spirit who assisted in the creation of the Light Prognosticus, and has been waiting for the hero to show up for many years. She passed away while waiting, but her spirit lingered on to deliver the pure heart to the hero, so while we're here, we may as well take this thing off our hands. Wouldn't want to be rude. Stop me if you've heard this one before, but at the end of each chapter, we have multiple interludes, one of which taking place in Count Bleck's headquarters, the other being a somewhat ambiguous story that unfolds throughout the entirety of the game. For now, I'm not going to focus on the latter one, because I think it makes the most sense to talk about the entire story as a whole, and also, I'm not ready to cry yet. I will talk about the happenings at Bleck's place though, but only if O-Chunks is there.
Well, I gotta do it now.
The Count and Nastasia find out about O-Chunk's defeat, which confirms to them that the hero of the Light Prognosticus is indeed real, and isn't someone to simply be ignored. He means business and has a mustache. They consult the Dark Prognosticus to find out where we'll be heading next, and while Count Bleck fucks off to sort that out, Nastasia alerts O-Chunks that some of Bowser's enemies are resisting the ways of the Count, so she's leaving him to wallow in his own failure while she attempts to get them in line. We cut to, oh my god, Princess Peach? She wakes up outside of Castle Bleck and she runs into two of Bowser's minions. One of them runs off to defend Bowser's honor or something like that, but the other wants to help Peach escape, and then, oh, wait a minute. We control Peach?
I ask you, how could this game possibly be more like the other Paper Mario games? Oh, that's a technicality!
We find the Hammer from earlier being hypnotized by Nastasia, and this smartass over here says we gotta get out of here!
Really? I think we should stay a while.
Nastasia catches up with us, hypnosis strikes again, and before Peach can get the old zippity-zappity treatment, dun 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 dun, plot convenience! We head back to Flipside and present the pure heart to Merlin. He tells us to find its heart pillar, and right as we're about to head out the door, this whackjob bursts in screaming about a girl that fell from the sky. The girl in question is Peach. She wakes up and we take her back to Merlin's. He then gives us some more backstory about where the next pure heart is, and after hearing this, Peach joins our party. How the hell does that work?
What the f is up with this game? How can it keep throwing new ideas at me so goddamn consistently? And how can each and every one of them be so damn good? I don't understand!
In this adventure, Mario is anything but lonely, as we get to play as Princess Peach and two other characters. Oh man, I wonder who they could be. Princess Peach has two unique abilities, being the ability to glide and use her parasol as a shield. However, she can't flip into 3D. That's only an ability the mustachioed Italian men are able to utilize. He must be Swedish. Peach is damn fun to play as though, and the addition of a non-Mario entity adds a lot of strategy and charm to the game. Different situations can be handled slightly differently depending on who you're playing as. Different characters treat you differently and have unique things to say based on who you are. Peach makes everybody wet.
We've come full circle.
Chapter 2 sees Mario and the princess crossing through Gloom Valley to reach Merlee's mansion. This big fancy place filled with all sorts of expensive shit. So it's a good job we met a bomb on the way there. Boomer is the next pixel we meet up with. I was expecting a penguin, but no, false alarm. This guy is this game's obligatory bomb partner. Just like Bombette and Bobbery, Boomer explodes and does very little else.
The f did you just say?
We enter the mansion and incompetence reigns supreme. Oops. We're then introduced to Dear God Anybody But Merlee, as we're scolded for breaking this here vase. This is Mimi, the final of Count Bleck's women, and she's so mad that she decides to subject us to slavery. Captain Olimar, eat your heart out.
I'm f***ing amazing at this part of the game.
Alright, okay, so, people love to bitch about this part, about how it takes so damn long to go between all of these rooms, do all of these tasks, and earn enough rubies to buy the code to the safe that contains enough money to repay our debt. It all takes so damn long. But Well, in dog years, yeah. Like, sure, it takes a little time and effort, but it's not that bad. And if you really don't want to do it, then fucking don't. Just look up the save code on the internet. Hell, I did this, and look at that, I've got a one-way ticket to No Dead Island. Is this really a valid complaint? We run into a new pixel named Slim, who allows us to turn sideways, which is a focal mechanic of this game, but the camera doesn't come with us. That makes this completely different. We head on down to the mansion's basement and we find Merlee. Gotcha. Mimi reveals herself and transforms into this creepy-ass spider with the most fucking disgusting sound clip. Jesus, did Miyamoto snap someone's neck for that? She chases us into the ladies' bathroom where we find not one, but two Merlees. Both talk to us only through rhyme. If I didn't too, that would be a crime. We have to find which one's a fake. Someone's taking a shit here, for God's sake. We take part in an awesome quiz to find out which one Merlee is. A Paper Mario tradition returns again. A full game of these quizzes when we ask the questions to the Spirit and Scum. 5 of the 10 there are to choose from. And after we've received our answers, we must find Merlee from these constant dancers. We find Merlee and should be done, but with this choice a fight is begun. You coward! We kill Mimi, thank God, and we obtain the 3rd pure heart. Black decides to send Dementio on a quest to see what our blood tastes like, and then Luigi's here, everybody! He falls for the whole damsel in distress shtick that these two Goombas pull, and I mean, who could blame him? When I think of a princess locked away in a tower, this is the face that comes to mind. We get to play as Luigi here, but we don't get to see if he has any sort of standout abilities, which is pretty odd. Well, whatever, I guess. He tries to help the Goombas escape, but one is hypnotized. I'm starting to notice a pattern here, and the other one willingly joins Black's side and helps hold down Luigi so that he can be brainwashed and using Count Black's army to fight against the people he's closest to. That Goomba's a bitch. Chapter 3 sees us heading to the Bitlands. I'm telling you, man, they knew the paper aesthetic wouldn't work here. At the very beginning of the chapter, Tibby is eaten by this ugly chameleon, Francis. So I guess we have to go save her. Not exactly what I call a fun afternoon in the square world, but hey, a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. Eventually, we stumble across a very familiar looking castlescape, and who else would we find here but Bowser, who decides he wants to try and fight us. Buddy, has this ever worked out for you before? And no, now is not an exception. After his defeat, he decides to join our journey because, I don't know, he was bored? Bowser is the slowest of the bunch, but he makes up for it not by being the strongest by a landslide and having the ability to one-shot most things with his fire breath, but rather by flailing his arms around at any chance he gets. Bowser's arms are my one true reason for living. After going for a swim, we meet Thudley, who grants us the ability to ground pound. Oh wow, it's like an actual Mario game now. We climb a tree and use the wings at the top to gracefully fly over to Fort Francis. How the hell does this groping scaly bastard have such an impressive and highly guarded castle full of robot maids, video game consoles and merchandise, and plushes of all the partners from the first 2 games?
Yes, I'm jealous of the fucking frogman, okay? What's new?
In the depths of the fort, we find another pixel, being Carrie, and with that, the game is broken. If you want a foolproof way to beat this game with little to no effort and be drowning in the copious amounts of sex you'll be having, use the Bowser Carrie combo for the rest of eternity. Nothing else matters. Carrie completely eliminates the one flaw that Bowser has, that being his lack of speed. So combining the two causes everything in the game to die if you blink at them. And I would include Francis in that everything, but he only lets Peach into his room. No Bowser's allowed.
This guy's so much better than me, it's scary.
Upon our arrival, he boots up Swoon.exe, and the Mario series finally makes its debut in the dating sim genre. There's nothing he can't do now. We get to play this out from Peach's perspective, and the responses we can choose from range to reasonably bitchy to bed. Now, fuck me. No matter what you choose though, Francis grows increasingly horny. Super Paper Mario really wants to take the Thousand Year Door's title, huh? Peach crushes Francis's computer and to a greater extent, his aspirations, and in response he tries to kick our collective ass. And wouldn't you know it, people who spend all of their time playing video games aren't too great at fighting.
Oh, I am gonna kick your...
We save Tibby and grab the 4th pure heart. But before we check out what's happening in Castle Black, if we head back to the beginning of this chapter, we find one of 3 optional pixels in this game, Barry. He creates a temporary shield, which is mildly useful on the off chance that you actually get to use it, but for the time it takes to realize, oh, he might be useful now. Go into the menu, bring him out, and actually use his ability. I don't know, man, I'd rather just walk left to avoid an enemy and use those extra seconds to depress myself.
I'm closer to death than I was this morning.
At Castle Black, Dementio is beginning to realize that we're gonna foil his plans. I never expected him to have the same train of thought as a Scooby-Doo villain. He f***s off and Nastasia tries to convince the Count that it's not too late to put a stop to this, to which he kindly offers her a ticket to piss piss off Avenue. She declines out of devotion to him, and they both head off, allowing Dementio to reveal his eavesdropping. You snake! And then back in Flipside, Mel introduces the Bowser as the third hero mentioned in the Light Prognosticus.
No fucking way. I mean, he's on the box art, but still, no fucking way.
Chapter 4 sees us heading to outer space. That works great for us. We free a fish into a dingy underground puddle, and we use its bowl as a helmet. Now, this chapter is potentially the one that people dislike the most in this game. I feel like I say that about every aspect of this game, but this is actually what people seem to dislike the most, I promise. The gameplay here is a lot different, as you'll spend most of your time swimming through space in order to find certain things. And for a lot of people, the more open space of, well, fucking space causes them to get lost with annoying frequency, particularly in the woe zone in 4.3. And while I can understand how this can happen, I personally did not have this complaint whatsoever. I was able to navigate all of these areas perfectly fine. There's always some sort of indication of where you need to be going. They can be pretty easy to miss, but if you're paying enough attention, you'll be able to get where you want to be with relative ease. Or who knows, maybe I just got lucky and I'll hate this part when I'm bald and lonely. We follow an SOS signal and we find Squirt, a space squid who wants nothing more than for us to follow him to the pure heart. Tippy throws a hissy fit about this, but Mario blindly follows him. Ladies and gentlemen, the duality of man. We eventually reach a space toilet that Squirps needs to drop a squirt bin. It's occupied and we need to hunt down some space toilet paper for the person inside. That is a sentence that came out of my mouth and it refers to a Mario game. Who am I? We find an ancient scroll and decide... F it, that'll do. And we free Fleep from the stall. Fleep is our next partner, and he can flip dimensional rifts in order to reveal their secrets. The creativity of the Pixels' names is on another level. We use this ability to continue on our quest until we run into a new enemy, and... he looks so familiar. Who could it be? Oh well. I'm sure beating the shit out of him will help jog my memory. Nope, but he does introduce us to his brobot. That's gotta count for something, right? Squirps finally leads us to the Pure Heart, which is being guarded by a statue of his mother. He reveals that she is the Queen of Squirpia, and he is the Prince. His mother told him many years ago that destruction would come to the world, so she hid the Pure Heart in the Woe Zone, while sending Squirps to guide the legendary hero to its location when the time came. And with that, we grab the Pure Heart and allow Squirps to finally be reunited with his mother. At Castle Black, there's a new enemy in town, and he's already fitting in quite nicely by having a story of how we kicked his ass. The other minions aren't impressed and probably piss off. Anastasia once again tries to convince Black to put an end to his plan, and that works, it doesn't. At Flipside, Tippy decides that consciousness isn't for her. So while she's enjoying that arc of her life, we head off to find the next heart pillar, which turns out to be in Flopside, an alternate reality version of Flipside that even has its own version of Merlin, Nullrem. Wow. Woo did Yeti mock poo too, Tata Iman. I know the whole alternate version of the main area has been done to death in Nintendo games at this point, but I actually really like Flopside. It has the best town in known to man, but it also has a lot to do that Flipside doesn't offer, and it's just really fun to compare the two. I dig.
Tippy realizes that unconsciousness was just a phase, and she joins us for Chapter 5, which sees us heading to the downtown of Crag in a very Super Mario Bros. 2 fashion. I hope this isn't a sign. Yeah, Super Mario World was my favorite chapter of the Thousand Year Door, how could you tell? The Floro Sapiens are a race of walking flowers, and they're just going to town on the Cragnons, the residents of downtown Crag. The Floro Sapiens kidnap some Cragnons not long after we arrive, and it's our job to save them. Along the way we fight O-Chunks, but not just any O-Chunks, O-Chunks with a twist. Dementio sends us to an alternate dimension wherein O-Chunks has more power, but I have Bowser and Carrie, so f*** you. We meet another pixel called Kudge, and you can make him scream out a catchphrase. Now I'm a mature, sophisticated individual, and I would never do something so childish just to make him say something inappropriate. I made him shout shit.
There were no limits and I have no filter. I will not be held accountable.
Kudge is a hammer, and wow, it's like I'm really playing a Paper Mario game now. On our travels, we meet up with national TV star Flynn Cragley, and man, what I wouldn't give to just crag this guy in the fucking jaw. He's the only Cragnon to not replace 90% of a sentence's syllables with crag, but he makes up for that with ignorance and incompetence. We help him find his crew, and together, we discover that the Floro Sapiens are kidnapping the Cragnons in order to brainwash them with Floro Sprouts, in order to turn them into the king's slaves.
lives. We just refuse to be okay with that, and we meet the pixel known as Dottie out of retaliation.
We mean business.
Dottie can allow us to shrink to the size of like half a pixel. Not that pixel, this pixel. And we use this ability to find out more about what the Floro-Sapiens are doing to the Kragnons. Turns out Dementio used a Floro Sprout on O'Chunks in the hope of actually making him a competent fighter, but no. The Sprout falls off his head and we use it to trick the Floro-Sapiens into taking us to their king, Crocus IV. This guy is f***ing fabulous! But that doesn't make him immune to a can of ass whooping. Upon the king's defeat, a group of his underlings tell us that the only reason Crocus was capturing the Kragnons was to save his people. The Kragnons were constantly polluting the water in the valley, and the Floro-Sapiens had to suffer through drinking it in order to stay alive. And the only way to put a stop to this was to capture the Kragnons and force them into doing good. Crocus and the Floro-Sapiens weren't villains at all. They were just trying to protect their people, and we killed them for doing so. Kinda makes you think about things from the perspective of the other side for once. And of course, Flynn Cragley pretends he already knew all about this. Man, f*** off. We grab the Pure Heart, but for the first time in a Mario game, it doesn't really feel like we deserve it. We slaughtered the king of a species who were trying to undo the wrongs of the Kragnons. We shouldn't be rewarded for that. Speaking of things that shouldn't be rewarded, at Castle Black, Nastasia is punishing O'Chunks for his continued failures. Meanwhile, Dementio convinces Mimi and Mr. L to take matters into their own hands and defeat us themselves. Chapter 6 sees us heading to the Sama Kingdom in order to take part in a 100-man battle to obtain the next Pure Heart. While this is obviously a daunting task, it's somewhat undermined by the fact that the Void has become fucking huge. Throughout the entirety of the game, the void in the sky has been growing bigger and bigger, but it's pretty easy to forget about that when you're so caught up in the moment-to-moment gameplay and story beats. But in Chapter 6, with the monotony that comes from having to duel 100 enemies, it's clear as day how overpowering the void is. And this is no coincidence, because after we pass through the 30th gate... that's it. An entire chapter, an entire world, full of culture, history, and most importantly of all, people. It's gone. This is one of the most powerful moments in the game for me personally. So many times in games we're told about an imminent threat that can and will end the world, but here, we actually see that happen. We see the destruction of a world happen right before our eyes. And those last few minutes of desperation and struggle that come before this? It makes it hurt that much more to see this place gone. We can re-enter the door that leads to the Sama Kingdom, but all we're greeted by is an endless expanse of whiteness. The silence of the once bustling kingdom slaps you in the face with a soul-crushing realization that there is nothing we can do to reverse this. We find the Pure Heart that's been turned into stone, but before we can grab it, Mr. L shows up in an attempt to stop us from resurrecting the heart. We beat Mr. L and grab the Pure Heart, and after we leave, Dementio appears to... kill Mr. L dead. Jesus Christ! We take the heart back to Merlin, but before you can figure out what to do with it, Dementio appears to... fucking kill us too. This guy is on a roll. Mario wakes up in the underwear, the gaming equivalent of hell, also known as World -1, a really neat callback to the original Super Mario Bros. We make our way to Queen Jades, the queen of the underworld. We talk to her, but she's so rudely interrupted by a phone call telling the queen that her daughter is missing, and just like that, we're tasked with bringing her back. Loveby is the daughter in question, a NIMBY who talks in old-timey English and is disgusted by the mere existence of men with mustaches. Do I have bad news for her? In exchange for Loveby's safe return, Jades agrees to revive the Pure Heart for us, and on our way to track down Loveby, we find Luigi cowering behind a rock, as any Luigi would. He wastes absolutely no time and joins us on our quest, and with that, the 4 heroes of the Light Prognosticus are reunited. But 2 of them are dead. Luigi has the super jump ability, which is pretty damn handy down here. The dead just love things to be inaccessible, which I guess makes sense. You don't need wheelchairs in hell. We reunite Loveby with Jades, and the queen holds up her end of the bargain by reviving the Pure Heart and the Mario Bros and sending us off to Flipside. We reunite with Tibby, but Bowser and Peach are still nowhere to be seen, so hopefully we can find them in the door that leads us to Chapter 7. You gotta be fucking kidding me.
There's something about hell that just keeps pulling me back in.
We head straight back to Jades, and she gives us the task of taking Loveby to her father in the over there. Along the way, we meet Bowser, and we re-recruit him. And not long after this, we enter a fight with the Underchomp. But this isn't just any old fight. This is a turn-based fight.
You can't complain anymore. 1 turn-based battle is as good as 100 turn-based battles, and for some people, less is more.
After traversing hell, we decide to skip purgatory and go straight to heaven. And while ascending the over there stair, we find Peach, but she's taken one of a power nap, so we need to revive her with fruit. There are 5 colored apples to choose from, so might as well try all of them and see which one works. Nope, 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 nope. Finally. We reach the over there and it's overrun by Skelebits, and their leader, Bone Chill, who's frozen Gramby in an attempt to take over the over there. He tells us that Loveby is actually a pure heart, and a battle ensues to try and nab her from us. We of course destroy Bone Chill and save Gramby, but Loveby demands answers. Jadis and Gramby, through their own tears, reveal that Loveby is not their real daughter, in an incredibly emotional scene that genuinely brought a tear to my eye. The pure heart that the pair protected was at constant risk of being seized by evil, so in an attempt to protect it and themselves, they transformed it into a form that no one would suspect. A daughter. This understandably sends Loveby into a fit of both rage and heartbreak. She is furious at the pair for pretending to be her parents, but Jadis and Gramby grew to love Loveby in the many years they shared together. Although she was created to protect the pure heart, she became a part of their lives. They loved her like she was their daughter. But that had to come to an end. Loveby returns to her true form, and we grab the final pure heart. I'm not crying, you're crying, damn it! The gang at Castle Black discuss final preparations as our arrival draws ever closer. And after we put the final pure heart in its pillar, a door appears atop Flopside Tower. And with that, it's time to enter the void. It's time to face Count Black and the imminent end of all worlds. It's time to put an end to Super Paper Mario. This is it, the final chapter of Super Paper Mario, and this is some seriously good stuff we got here. We traverse Castle Black, and as we move further into its walls, we slowly begin to lose all of our party members. After a fight with O-Chunks, both he and Bowser are left trying to stop a ceiling from crushing them to death. After a battle with Mimi, both her and Peach are left holding on for dear life after the floor beneath them disappears. And after trying to convince our remaining heroes to join his alliance, Dimentio sends us on a world-hopping game of tag that culminates in a battle between Luigi and him. And after his defeat, Dimentio sacrifices both himself and Luigi to ensure that Count Black will never be able to get his hands on the man in green that the Dog Prophecy speaks of. With only Mario remaining, we make our way to Count Black, who knows just as well as we do that only one of us comes out of this fight alive. Only one of the Book of Prophecies can come to fruition, and with that in mind, we begin the final battle.
Stop! I don't want the game to end yet. Remember how earlier I said that the memories recalled after each of the game's chapters are best talked about as one complete story? Well, name me a better time than now to finally tell that story. I dare you.
This battle is what the entire game has been building towards, but it isn't even half as impactful if you don't know the tale of Timpani and Blumea. These memories are nothing short of a love story, a genuinely emotional tale that unfolds as you further progress through the game. The story follows the human girl known as Timpani, and the member of the Tribe of Darkness known as Blumea. Timpani found Blumea injured at a cliff base, and after taking care of him, the two very quickly fell in love. The two sneak away from their homes in order to see each other as often as possible, to learn more about each other, to share meaningful moments and conversations with each other. But Blumea's father caught wind of the fact that Blumea was sneaking out of the castle to talk to a human. This slowly begins to get in the way of the pair's love, and Timpani is unable to bear it anymore. She tells Blumea that they can no longer see each other. She can't bear the pain of seeing Blumea hurting as the result of his father. Blumea begs that Timpani marries him, and joins him in finding a world that will accept their love, and allow them to be happy. Timpani agrees, and the two take off to find a home to call their own. They're happy. They have everything they need in each other. There is nothing more in any dimension that they could ask for. One day, however, Blumea is unable to find Timpani, but rather finds his father. After demanding answers, it's revealed that Timpani no longer resides in this world, because Blumea's kind and humans should never mix. It's heavily implied that Blumea's father killed Timpani in order to regain control of his son. Outraged, Blumea finds the Dark Prognosticus, and despite his father's pleas, he opens the ancient book. And Blumea is no more. From the person once known as Blumea rises an evil count, a count who is hell-bent on destroying all worlds in order to heal his heartbreak. From the Dark Book of Prophecies, Count Black rises. That's right, Count Black, the villain we spent the entire game trying to thwart, is the Blumea that we've spent the entire game sympathizing with. When we enter his room, he immediately recognizes Tibby, and in turn, Tibby recognizes him. Tibby was not always the helpful butterfly we know her as now. She was once a human who fell in love with an unlikely soul that she bonded to for the rest of eternity. Tibby and Timpani are one in the same. The long-separated pair are reunited at last. Blumir is in the final stages of destroying a world that would not allow him to be with Timpani, and Timpani has arrived to thwart his plans. The only way for all worlds to remain is for Mario and Timpani to destroy the man she once loved. Never in my life have I ever felt so genuinely awful about defeating a villain in a Mario game. The story here and the connection that Timpani and Blumir have is genuinely heartbreaking. It plays on a fairly common love story trope, sure, but learning about their origins in parallel with trying to revert Blumir's revenge on the world is such a powerful concept. The connection between these two characters is real and rich, and to some of us, it feels relatable. And after all of that, we have no choice but to defeat Blumir. Even if we know that all worlds will be saved, that doesn't change the fact that after they were finally reunited, Timpani will have Blumir ripped away from her all over again. God damn it, this story is almost too much to handle. It actually baffles me that this story is in a video game, and a Mario game no less. But regardless of the tears in my eyes, we battle Count Bleck. Bowser, Peach and Luigi all return to give Mario a helping hand, and the combined power of the 4 heroes and the 8 pure hearts is enough to bring the Count down. Bleck pleads for his demise as it's the only way that his beloved Timpani can remain alive, whilst Tibby begs that Bleck is spared. A tear-jerking scene to say the least, and a scene that led me to believe that I was going to have to make that choice. But, to my slight relief, Dimentio returns to deal the finishing blow to the Count, but Nastasia blocks the blow and is fatally wounded. Dimentio knows that it doesn't matter whether or not the Count lives, so long as somebody is in control of the Chaos Heart, and he doesn't hesitate to be that somebody. Us using the Pure Hearts to defeat Count Bleck meant that Dimentio was able to enact his plan uncontested, and after he brainwashes Luigi into turning back into Mr. L, he summons Super Dimentio. You mean to tell me, after all this time, Luigi and Mr. L were the same person? We enter into a battle with Super Dimentio, but we are unable to damage it at all. Mimi and Ochunks make a return, and they, along with Nastasia, shower Count Bleck in love and hope. They convince him to not give up, that he can still have a life with Timpani. The overwhelming happiness this brings the pair conjures a new set of pure hearts that Tibby delivers to us, and with his invisibility broken, we are able to destroy Super Dimentio once and for all. Luigi returns unscathed, but Dimentio leaves enough of his newfound power to send the Void into hyperdrive, and it begins to consume all worlds. In a last-ditch effort, Count Bleck takes us to the altar from the very beginning of the game, and after the two explain that their love for one another never died, Blumir asks if, despite all of the pain and suffering and trauma he's caused her, Timpani would still marry him. The long-lost lovers are finally able to fulfill the promise that they made to each other many years ago, and their marriage summons another set of pure hearts, and that is enough to rid the universe of the Chaos Heart. And as the bells chime, all worlds are rid of the Void and the destruction it caused, and our tale is brought to an end. Blumir asks Timpani if she's ready to be taken to the place he promised of, the place where their love will be allowed, and their happiness accepted, and as the Void closes, Timpani joins Blumir for the rest of eternity.
Super Paper Mario is obviously a hugely different experience to the games that preceded, and for many, that's enough for them to disregard it. And I don't feel that that's fair. Super Paper Mario, despite how far it strays from the original games in the series, is still a fantastic Paper Mario game. It still retains almost all of the things that makes the series so great to begin with. But it's so much more than that. The world and story of this game are so rich and alive. Every part of what this game tries to convey to us feels so real. The connection between Blumir and Timpani, the bloodshed and heartbreak that their relationship causes, and the eventual resolution, it all feels so genuine, in a way that I've never really seen pulled off before. To see so many people just push this game to the side as a simple 2D side game genuinely hurts me, because despite all of its flaws and imperfections, I think I prefer this game to The Thousand Year Door. While I can admit that this is an objectively better game, Super Paper Mario just has more that appeals to me personally. It took everything that worked with The Thousand Year Door and ran further with it than you ever could have imagined. I much prefer the gameplay. I prefer the locations and the creepy implications that go with a lot of them. I prefer the overall narrative, and most importantly of all, I just straight up had more fun with this game. I love Super Paper Mario more than almost any game I've ever played, and I can say with 100% confidence that it is my absolute favourite Paper Mario game. Because I somehow doubt that Colour Splash is going to change that. Hey, what's up? It's your boy Rawk, and welcome one, welcome all to the 1920s, where we recently discovered colour, and let me tell you boys, it was a game changer. Now, of course, just like any new discovery, we needed to find a way to make a profit off of it, and with that in mind, allow me to introduce you to Carl's Colourful Carnival. That's Carl's Colourful Carnival with a C in there somewhere. What is Carl's Colourful Carnival, you might be asking? Well, it is the only way to truly experience colours the likes of which have never graced human eyes, such as this one, and even this one. But you can't see them unless you come here, you fucking dork. And for a limited time only, if you buy a deluxe ticket to Carl's Colourful Carnival, we'll even throw this in at no extra charge. Wait, we're just giving these away? Is humanity ready for that much colour yet? Nope.
I could really go for a colourblind diagnosis right about now. For most of its life, the Paper Mario series saw brand new entries every 4 years, but after the release of Super Paper Mario on the Wii, all was pretty much silent on the Paper Mario front. Which is pretty odd, seeing as Super Paper Mario was the best-selling entry in the series so far. Despite being somewhat divisive within the community, that game was still a pretty big deal. In the background, there were a lot of changes being made, both in terms of the development team and their design philosophies. And it was becoming more and more obvious that the mindset of creating different types of games that Super Paper Mario was developed under was slowly becoming the focal concept heading into the future of the series. Fans were getting pretty antsy for a while, as the Paper Mario series was somewhat stuck in limbo for almost a decade. But after 8 years, Nintendo finally revealed a new Paper Mario game on March 3rd, 2016. Paper Mario Color Splash for the Wii U. Christ! That reveal trailer is potentially the most contentious thing that Nintendo has ever released. I mean, come on! The series has spent its entire life building a reputation for having compelling narratives and intensely creative worlds that push the boundaries of what the Mario series has done before. And Bill Trinen comes out and makes a stupid fucking pain joke and reveals a new Paper Mario! Set in the most bland locations the series has ever seen.
From the minute it was shown off, Paper Mario Color Splash was absolutely steeped in controversy. Even people who enjoyed the game only really did so in the context of, wow, this game's pretty damn fantastic for horse shit. For me personally, I wasn't invested enough in the Paper Mario series to really be aware of the controversy at the time, and when I finally got my hands on this game about 4 years later, everything had kind of settled down and people had just moved on with their lives. I'm one of the few people that doesn't really have an opinion on this game, and that just won't fucking do. So, I'm gonna play through Paper Mario Color Splash and finally form an opinion on it, because I am running out of excuses not to. Damn.
Paper Mario Color Splash opens up on a rainy night, where two hooded figures are approaching a house. Are they new characters? No, you dumb bitch, it's Peach and a generic Toad, live with it. They knock on the door and they're answered by Paper Mario.
That's not possible!
And where the f*** is Paper Luigi?
I'm starting to see why people don't like this game.
Peach delivers a letter to Paper Mario and not Paper Luigi, and it turns out to be a completely white Toad, which terrifies Mario so much he goes on a boat. We arrive at Port Prisma, which is the location stamped on the Toad corpse, and when we arrive, we find Mario's hammer just chilling on top of a box, a regular occurrence for any and all hammers out there. We head into town and discover that the entire place has been drained of all its colour. Oh no! This fancy-ass futuristic drain hole opens up and reveals a fully 3D paint can.
Whoa!
The only reasonable thing to do after something like that is to hit it with our hammer, and in an absolutely shocking turn of events, he didn't like that. This here is Huey, and he's our first companion on this adventure. He's pretty much this game's equivalent of Tippy from Super Paper Mario. I mean, look, he floats, he hangs out with Mario, he meets the quota. We start to learn more about this guy and the whole lick my toes attitude he has going on, but before we're able to become best pals, we're interrupted by...
Is he injured or just really horny?
We find a Shy Guy and a Toad engaging in something that needs to be censored, and upon his dying breath, Toad throws us a pile of battle cards.
Hold!
We grab the cards and prepare to fight the Shy Guy now that he's finally off Toad's d***.
Hold!
Huey stops us to ask if we have any idea what the f*** a paint is.
Hold!
We drain his lifeblood into our pockets and diagnose him with one less dimension.
Hold!
And we finally get into the very first battle of Paper Mario Color Splash.
Who's ready for bullshit?
The battle system in this game goes back to the turn-based format of the first two games. Unfortunately, the style of Super Paper Mario just wasn't gonna stick.
Boo!
However, instead of having a jump attack and a hammer attack that we can use and equip different variations of, we have battle cards. That sounds fun, what do they do? Battle cards are cards that each hold one move. You play it in battle, use the attack, boom, gone, you just gave up. Is there anything to battling outside of these cards? Nope. Every single attack you perform is on one of these things, whether it be a jump attack, a hammer attack, or an attack that was previously tied to an item, like a fire flower, they're all performed with a card. Now, of course, a colourless card is piss weak, which is why we have to use the blood of the innocent. We have to paint the cards in order to increase their attack power, and we can choose how much we paint it, which I appreciate. But there's no real point in not fully powering up a card, so whatever. This battle system is obviously a lot different than that of the first two games. When you hear that it brings back the turn-based format, that sounds like it should be nothing but a good thing, unless you're me. But when you look at everything surrounding that core framework, it's debatable whether or not this is a good battle system. What's my stance on this?
Well... Wait, I'm not supposed to be talking about this yet.
We win our battle and Huey realizes that the big paint stars the Paw Prisma is famous for are missing, which is way past not good for some reason. Huey begs us to find all 6 big paint stars and return them to their pedestals, and Mario is convinced by the fact that the disappearance of the stars may have something to do with the mysterious Toad fan mail. It's a game called Paper Mario Color Splash, what more do you want? Huey sniffs out the biggest jib in all the land. What we think is a big paint star ends up being a 3-for-1 deal in disappointment. A mini paint star, thank God, I've been saying for years these things are too big. The mini paint stars end up being our primary collectible here, as we collect a hoarder's wet dream worth of these things between each of the things that we actually care about. And if there's so many of them, that means they have to achieve something for us, right?
You'll get through this. Deep breaths.
So this game has a world map that you choose levels from, and there's no rigid level order, nor is there any sort of chapter structure. How interesting. Well, if the game's gonna show me a level, then I'm gonna want to jump into it. Christ, I'm only human. So let's do that. Oh my god. This game is... it's so beautiful. Obviously this game runs on the same graphical engine as the Origami King, but let's be fair here, Paper Mario Color Splash did it 4 years before the Origami King. And also, due to the nature of this game and its lack of rigid chapter structure, the locales are actually a lot more diverse in this game. That's not a jab at the Origami King by any means, but all 5 of its chapters follow the same theme throughout. And Color Splash breaking away from that structure allowed it to have a much more varied lineup of places for us to visit. This is the first time in the series where the paper aesthetic was truly nailed. The first 2 games didn't really lean into the paper thing. It was more just that the characters were flat as if they were in a storybook, and Super Paper Mario kinda ditched the paper aesthetic, leaning into a more digital look. But here in Color Splash, every single goddamn thing is made of paper, and I gotta be honest, it looks incredibly good. It's so charming to see how each and every set piece was constructed, and the phenomenal lighting and texture work aid in this terrifically. The animations are smoother than they ever have been too. Mario's walk animation has a slight sway to it, which is such a subtle detail, but it really adds to the personality of this game. Many people seem to think that the graphical style doesn't fit the series all too well, and can actually be distracting, but I far from agree with this sentiment. I can somewhat understand how somebody would feel this way. It's a pretty jarring leap from the previous few games, and having a game look like it was made with real arts and crafts can definitely break the immersion. Yoshi's Crafted World, as beautiful as it is the least immersive game I've ever played. So I can understand why people feel this way, but I'm just too taken aback by how goddamn gorgeous this game is for me to even think of this, let alone agree with it. I love how this game looks, but what's pleasurable for the eyes is orgasmic for the ears. The soundtrack of this game, Christ God, it's so good. The main theme pales in comparison to the rest of the series, but I have to admit, I love all of the different versions of it throughout the OST. Leitmotifs awaken something different within me. All of the music fits the locations they're found in so wonderfully. A favourite of mine is definitely Blue Bay Beach. It's such a chilled out track, and it invokes feelings of a relaxing trip to the beach, which, hey, that's exactly what this level is. Minus the fish.
However, by far the greatest example of the level and music working in synchronicity is Lighthouse Island. This area spans a couple of levels and they each consist of a pirate island, accompanied by a sea shanty sounding song, which is so damn good. But that's not all, because scattered around these levels are pipes that transport you to the Upside Down world, an alternate version of the level where every set piece you can interact with directly affects its standard equivalent. This leads to a lot of puzzle solving and working with both versions of the level in tandem, which is a really fun and interesting concept. And as if this wasn't already good enough, the alternate reality music has an almost cartoony spookiness to it, which I absolutely adore. And that, right there, is what I believe to be this game's strongest suit. The insane amount of variety in the levels, and the incredibly intuitive themes that each of the levels tackle. Some of this stuff is legitimately thought-provoking, and others, well, they're just a blast to experience. There's a haunted hotel stuck in a time loop that can only be broken by freeing the spirits that reside within its halls. There's a circus in the middle of a dense fog-enveloped forest. There's a volcano that we traverse on the back of Dragodon from Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. There's a forest where your enemies and environments are constantly shifting between puny and building-sized. There's a fight with a goddamn steak to cook it the right way. All of the locations in this game are absolutely bursting with creativity, and that's not even scratching the surface. Especially on a first playthrough, these levels are an absolute joy to discover, and I can't imagine that that won't be the case on a repeat playthrough.
The level's great, but f him. I want to see what Mario gets up to when he's not being a serial killer, so let's get into that sweet, sweet overworld gameplay.
This game returns to the 3D playground style of level that the first two games were huge fans of. 2D platforming, you won't be missed, except for by me, but on the whole, you won't be missed. But of course, this wouldn't be Paper Mario Color Splash without some sort of gimmick. So may I introduce you to, oh hey, it's Mario Paint.
Comeback of the fucking century.
Outside of battle, paint can be used to color these white spots that can be found absolutely everywhere. They're like chickenpox if chickenpox were fun as shit. Filling them in doesn't really achieve much for you. You get some coins, my faith in humanity is restored, and your level completion percentage increases. Good. I would have flipped my lid if that wasn't the case. Doing this is pretty damn superfluous, but something about the way it feels just makes it so appealing. It achieves absolutely nothing for me, and yet I found myself scouring every corner of the level to fill in any and all white spots. And if there was one or two that I couldn't reach, then my tear ducts were working overtime that night.
I just want to be happy. Just once!
Now, just like in the first two games, we have a special ability to use on the overworld. We can't twirl, we can't roll, but we can give up. We have the cutout ability, which as the name implies, allows us to cut out parts of the level and use the outline as a means of getting to areas we couldn't previously reach. This ability's fine, it's useful in certain places, but it isn't a revolutionary addition by any means. It doesn't really evolve the formula, but at its core, the overworld gameplay is still incredibly enjoyable, especially with the paint mechanic added on top. It makes these levels even more interesting and engaging, because if you're going for all of the colorless spots, you're going to be exploring every single inch of every single level, and it gives you a greater appreciation for them. And what makes this so much better is the writing and interaction scattered throughout each and every one of these levels. Don't take this to mean that the characters are super unique, because but they are at the very least super well written. The characters are constantly cracking jokes, and some of them rival Super Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door. It's very rare that a character will say something that isn't a joke, and while they're all really funny, it's obvious that the writers imagined somebody not laughing while playing this game and said,
no!
But while the never-ending onslaught of jokes can be really funny and fairly charming, it does take away from the experience a bit. Having such silly dialogue kinda makes it hard to focus on the story, which tries to be somewhat serious. But that doesn't work when this guy can't feel his fucking pants. Oh wait, yeah, we haven't finished the story yet. After we grab each of the big paint stars, we get to see a glimpse at just what the hell happened here in Port Prisma. For a little while, it actually feels quite mysterious. It feels like it's setting up a brand new villain, a new threat for Paper Mario to face. But then after like the second big paint star, it's revealed that the villain is Bowser.
Okay, that's not an immediate problem. I mean, after all, the original Paper Mario had Bowser as the main villain, and I really enjoyed the story in that game. So as long as we have interesting story beats and memorable encounters between each of these cutscenes, then we should be fine. This story is so bad!
Every single one of these memories shows you the exact same goddamn scene from a slightly different angle, and at slightly different times, but that doesn't matter because the same fucking thing happens in all of them. We realize something's fucky with Bowser, and we discover the black paint is behind it. That sounds interesting. How did that happen? Bowser wanted a rainbow shell and he mixed all of the paint together and it turned black. That's the whole story. Everything we've been through happens because Bowser knows jack shit about how colors work, and the game tries to play this off like that's a satisfying reason for the plot to be set into motion. Well, newsflash, it's not! Literally all of the story happens through these cutscenes. There's nothing else here. And all these cutscenes amount to is me wanting to snap my gamepad in half. And the worst part is, the final section is actually really good. Luigi appears for some fucking reason, and we head to Bowser's Castle, which is my favourite area of the game. It's so damn unique and creative and fun to traverse, but it's all undermined by the fact that all of this happened because of fucking paint! The black paint thing had potential to be interesting, provided that they came from some other antagonistic force. But no, Nintendo would rather have the story centered around Bowser being a complete and utter jackass. Also that they can hinge this entire fucking game's identity on something I can buy from an arts and crafts store. And as if this wasn't bad enough, every single fucking character is a Toad! Look back to Super Paper Mario. After the first Toad you meet in that game, how many more do you meet? That's right, 0! So they made up for that by having each and every character in this game be a Toad. I mean, we have the Koopalings, who are potentially the best written characters in the game, but it just feels lazy considering they're the only unique characters in the entire game. Because after all, they're the fucking Koopalings! I love the Koopalings as characters, but when you compare them to the X-Nauts, Tubba Blubba, Count Bleck and his minions, they're so uninteresting. But it makes sense. They wanted to have the story be entirely focused around paint, because the battles are entirely focused around paint, and they wanted the characters to be familiar to make the new paint mechanics stand out that much more. They wanted everything to be consistent, which would make everything feel like it made sense. Oh, for the love of Christ! Okay, so, in order to battle, you select the card you want to use. You have to scroll all the way through each and every one you have, just to find a single card. You then paint the card and perform your action commands. If that doesn't kill the enemy, great, do it again. This doesn't sound so bad. What the fuck's your problem, Rawk?
I have asthma, fuck off.
Selecting a card takes so damn long. It's all so clunky, and then you have to paint the cards, which seems like it matters, but it doesn't, because you're never gonna not paint a card all the way, so why even make us have to do it in the first place? Of course, the obvious answer is to limit a resource. Paint is useful both inside and outside of battle, so you don't want to use it all now, because you might want to use it later. You have to strategize how much paint you're gonna use to make sure you don't run out. Everything in the goddamn game gives you paint! Kill an enemy? Have some paint. Hit a tree enough? Well then, here's some paint. Hit a fucking flower once? Take my paint, you son of a bitch! And if you're really struggling to find paint in the levels, which is so unlikely it scares me, the big paint stores in Port Prisma give you unlimited paint. So would you look at that? You don't even have to care anymore. And the exact same sentiment is true for cards. You think that you have to strategize which cards to use because they're limited, but no, they can be found absolutely everywhere. So why bother strategizing which cards to use when you can use your best cards and have them replenished within seconds? And not only that, you can buy cards from Port Prisma. They're the only thing to spend your coins on, and this game fucking showers you in coins. So you can just buy an inventory worth of fire flowers and one hit kill everything that you come into contact with. And in the original two games, you could choose which enemy each attack was for, but you can't do that here! You just pick your 3 cards and hope for the best, and if Mario fucks it up, you have to sit there and watch him. And if he kills the enemies with cards to spare, they disappear. This shouldn't annoy me, considering how frequently you get cards, but it's an issue that's so easily avoidable, so even this pisses me off! So what if, like me, you don't want to deal with the tedium of these battles? Then bitch out, run away and see what happens. Oh, that's right, the enemy despawns! As though you've beaten them! Running away from battle is literally the best way to kill enemies. It doesn't waste cards, it doesn't waste paint, and it doesn't waste your time. The game gives you no reason to even bother engaging with a mechanic that realistically makes up about 50% of the experience. So you try to run away and you fail. You get attacked, you try again, you fail again. And then you realize the game seems to have this system in place where if it's decided that you can't run from a battle, it will fucking die on that hill. In so many battles, I try to run again and again and again, but it wouldn't let me. I couldn't escape, but I didn't want to bother fighting because I knew for a fact that running would have the same outcome. There were a few times I could run after failing, but 98% of the time I was trapped. And nothing causes pain to the very fibre of my being more so than being stuck in one of these fucking battles, constantly trying to run and constantly failing. I despise battling in this game. Every single idea they try to implement feels like it completely contradicts another. And it just ends in an absolute mess that I don't want to play.
And that is the worst part of all of this. I don't want to play this game half the time. Even though the overall gameplay is so enjoyable and the levels are so fun to explore, I can't look past how infuriating the battle system and everything surrounding it are. They genuinely hurt what could have been such a good game. I wanted to like this game so badly, and so many of the things that it does have to offer are great. I do like a lot about Paper Mario Color Splash, but the elements that bring it down really bring it down. But to answer the question, is Paper Mario Color Splash a bad game? No, it isn't. Actually, to some extent, I'd argue that it's a good game. It's just not a good Paper Mario game.
If you're able to get past the abhorrent battle system, the complete lack of difficulty and skill required, and the utter blandness of the story, then yeah, you've got a pretty good time on your hands. Hell, if they fixed the battle system, this might be on par with the original game. But as it is, it's just woefully disappointing. And it didn't need to be. And that's probably because they misspelled colour on the PAL release of the game. You Americans can continue to not believe in the letter U, but over here we have standards. I mean, come on, Sonic Colors managed it perfectly fine, but Paper Mario Color Splash? Do you have no shame?
Well, that's it. I've finally beaten every single Paper Mario game. Sure, we ended things on a pretty bitter note, but on the whole, I am so happy I took this journey. Paper Mario Color Splash may have left a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth, but regardless, the Paper Mario series has quickly become one of my favourite series of all time. I love each and every one of these games so damn much. The N64 original is an absolute treat, the Thousand Year Door has the best gameplay in the series, Super Paper Mario has by far the greatest story ever told by man, and even Color Splash, despite its bad elements, it still has a hell of a lot going for it. And now that I've finally beaten these games, I can understand why people love this series so much. And I have to agree, the Paper Mario series is one of the best things that Nintendo has ever done. And I don't think I'll ever stop loving these games as much as I do. Wait a minute. Something doesn't feel right here. Did I forget something?
64, Thousand Year Door, Super Color Splash, Origami King?
I've missed a game, haven't I? This isn't over. But the only question is, what game did I miss? Power cut. Great. What am I meant to do now? What the hell? The Origami King? How the hell did it get there?
Super? What the hell's going on here?
64? Color Splash? Thousand Year Door? What the hell does any of this mean? I've already played all of these games. Wait a minute. Switch, N64, Wii U, GameCube, and... Son of a bitch. I'll regret what? Oh, for fuck's sake. Ow! Shit! Well, at least I know where my torch went now. I gotta get out of here now!
Okay, I should be safe now. Hopefully I should just be able to ride this out until everything goes back to normal. Apparently not, then.
What in God's name was that? I didn't just trip over. Something attacked my leg, but what? I am not about to deal with this! What the fuck? What the? Fine. Have it your way.
Hey, what's up? It's your boy Rawk. I think I'm losing my mind. Lately, no matter where I look, no matter how many times I throw it away, this fucking game keeps coming back. I think I need to go for a walk.
Alright, enough is enough!
Look, I knew it was coming. Of course I did. I'd be delusional not to see it coming. But my god, I hoped I would have had more time. I mean, it could have been worse. Doesn't make this any better. I am not ready to do this. At all. But when you start something, the only thing you can do is finish it. No matter how much it hurts. I don't want to do this!
Well, here we are. I always feared this day would come, but I guess we just need to get on with it, huh? Paper Mario Sticker Star released on December 7th, 2012 here in the UK, but honestly, who gives a f***? If this game released in 1843, would it be any better? Don't quote me on this. But no. Look, this game has been dragged through the mud for almost a decade. Many people claim it's the 3DS's worst game, the worst Mario game, the worst game of all time. And I knew this was the case before I decided to play it again. I've had my history with this one. It shames me to no end to say that this was my introduction to the Paper Mario series. I played it relatively near its launch, but even back then, I didn't really enjoy my time with it. I couldn't quite put my finger on why, but it always felt like something was missing. A year or two later, I got my hands on Super Paper Mario, and after playing and loving that game, I took a hiatus from the series. Just before the release of the Origami King, I managed to track down the 1000-Year Door and Color Splash, and after I played the Origami King, I completed the collection with the N64 original. After playing through all of these games, I realized, oh! That's what's missing from Sticker Star! And the more I look back at this game, the more I started to resent it. With every day that passed, I became more and more aware of what this game truly was, and more importantly, what it wasn't.
Oh boy. Look, we all know the deal with this game, how it's not super great, but I'm gonna give this game the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna give it a fair shot, set aside all of my pre-established feelings, and I'm gonna go in with a completely blank slate.
And I'm also going to keep Chibi Robo Ziplash on standby to remind me things could always be worse.
Paper Mario Sticker Star opens up with the Sticker Festival. Oh boy, I wonder what one of those is. There's this big sticker star here. Wow, you should name a game after that. We don't know how it's here, we don't know why it's here, we just have to accept it. Bowser appears and touches the star. Oh no! He becomes evil and... we gotta stop him! He split the sticker star into 5 pieces that we have to hunt down, and then Bowser just... disappears. Paper Mario's here!
Okay.
After Mario unfolds himself, we have to find out where this voice that keeps speaking to us is from. And this is where we meet Kirsty. Get it? Because sticker? Sticker? Kirsty? This is the most creative thing in this game, please let me have this. Kirsty is this game's equivalent to Huey. I would have said Tippy, but she played a massive part in the story of Super Paper Mario, which would imply that Sticker Star had a story, but it absolutely... It's okay, I'm okay, I can do this, happy thoughts. Kirsty joins us on our journey to explore the ruined aftermath of the Sticker Festival, or as I like to call it, the Glue Gala. And eventually we find a piece of land that's been rolled up, making it inaccessible. After this we need to find a load of toads in this nearby town, and, I will admit, this part of the game is pretty enjoyable. There's some really creative hiding spaces for the toads, and they all have something to say when you find them. They don't really compare to any of the toads in Color Splash, but they're funny enough. And one thing that I think's really cool is that the UK localization features a lot of references to UK culture, and that's most obvious in this town. Some of the toads mention their cups of tea, and crumpets, and fish and chips, things that I refuse to consume because I don't want people knowing I wasn't allowed to buy a Virtual Boy. I have to imagine that this attention to detail is present throughout the rest of the game, but I noticed it here more than anywhere else, and that's something I really appreciate. It may not seem like it to many, but that level of nuance in different localizations really adds to the charm of a game. Good job, Sticker Star, I approve. We find all the toads and unroll this area, revealing the town of Deckelberg and also manslaughter. Alright, that was pretty funny, I'll give you that too. Decalberg is the main area of this game. It's not a hub world, it's just where you'll be returning to the most frequently, and it has everything that you'd need wrapped up in one little dot on the world map. Let's move past it, we'll be fine. Alright, let's move on to the gameplay of Sticker Star, by hopping into the first level. The overall gameplay here is pretty much a more primitive version of Color Splashes. We don't have the paint or the cutout, but we do have the ability of paperization. That sounds exciting! What's that? Paperization allows you to stick stickers onto the world, and pull paper that looks out of place and put it in your pockets. All this power in just one Y button. I am overwhelmed. Putting stickers into the background can affect the level. Cover a fan, fight the wind. And picking up paper is cool. Mario got out of bed, tried it out, and I'm proud of him, but I gotta be honest, I just don't give a shit. Of course, from this you can gather that stickers are abundant in this game. They can be found stuck to walls absolutely everywhere, stuck to the floor absolutely everywhere, inside of question blocks absolutely everywhere. You can't walk 4 stinking steps without finding a goddamn sticker. Stickers are fun enough to collect. Pulling a relatively rare or powerful sticker from a wall feels pretty satisfying. But if I had to complain about any aspect of this...
And legally, I do.
The stickers are a bit too abundant to really feel like they matter. For the first few hours, yeah, I'll admit, it feels pretty damn good to run around collecting stickers. But once you've filled your album once, which does not take long at all, it just doesn't really feel impactful anymore. But the overabundance of stickers has to mean they have some sort of impact outside of the story, and they do. Much like the cards of Color Splash, the stickers here are used in battle, so let's jump into one.
I can't do this.
Moving abruptly on, let's talk about the chapters in this game. Chapters. They definitely exist. I'm definitely not in denial. Let me live my life. When Bowser split the sticker star in the beginning of the game, he set free 6 royal stickers, which have significance. So much significance that the game doesn't seem to tell me. How can I be horny if I'm just confused? In each of the chapters, there lies an enemy that the royal stickers have landed on, and this makes them turn all sparkly and shit, and that is not a good thing. One might argue that it's actually a bad thing. I hope you're making notes. At the end of each chapter, we have to fight these enemies, and wouldn't you know it, they're all pre-existing Mario enemies, with a slight twist. Good for them, but they aren't good. I mean, there's a Goomba that turns huge, there's a Pokey that's also building sized, there's Gooba Blooba from Mario Sunshine, Peter Piranha from Sunshine, Mr. Blizzard is the most unique of the bunch and he's a fucking snowman. But, to give him credit, he starts out as a Bowser ice sculpture, with snow armor, Then you burn him, and he becomes the same thing, but smaller. Burn him again, smaller again, burn him again, snowman form reigns supreme. The rest of the battles are interesting enough, I suppose. They each require a particular thing, and no, that isn't the result of my shit vocabulary, it's the result of shit game design. Things are real-world objects that just appear in the levels with absolutely no context. You turn them into stickers by throwing them at a wall, and then you can use them in battle. They boil down to nothing more than fancy special abilities, and the one that's required for any given fight is generally pretty easy to figure out with any level of critical thinking. This is probably the best aspect of the battles, figuring out which thing you need to take an enemy down. Hitting a pokey with a baseball bat brings me more joy than it has any right to. But this is brought down by the fact that everything is a real-world object. That would be fine if there was some sort of context surrounding it, but there isn't. So why aren't there some sort of fun Mario reference instead of a realistic fucking trumpet? It just feels a bit lazy, but I have to give them credit that they make the boss battles more interesting, which is something we definitely need in this game. Okay, let's talk about the story, or the world map and levels, or the battle system. I don't have anything nice to say about any of these things. I don't want to get mad. I'm trying to give this game a fair shot, I really am, but I'm running out of nice things to say! The soundtrack! It's pretty good. Not the greatest in the series by any means, but it's still pretty good. The style combined with the audio limitations of the 3DS make each of the songs sound like they belong in an old-timey theatrical production, and I actually think that's a pretty interesting direction to take the music in. This idea fits the rest of the game too. It does sort of feel like something you could imagine being played out in a small theater, and it's kind of endearing. The themes are nowhere near as catchy as something like the Thousand Year Doors soundtrack, but what we have here is really solid. A personal favorite of mine has to be the snow level theme. It's incredibly good, and gives the level a really cozy feel. The music is great, but I can't deny that it feels a little off. It doesn't really fit the game all too well, purely because the music is so much better and so much more interesting than any of the bland, generic, boring-ass locations that they're found in. The music is so unique and good, but the levels themselves are the Paper Mario equivalent of white bread! I can't do this anymore. I just can't. I've tried to be kind to this game. I've tried so hard to find things to enjoy, but every single thing I like about this game is completely overshadowed by the absolutely baffling decisions made with every other aspect of the game! So fine, you win. You want me to play you? You want me to talk about you? Then fine, but I refuse to dance around my opinion anymore. You want me to be critical? Then it's time to get fucking critical! My issues with this game culminate into 5 main things. In reality, there isn't a number big enough to attach to the amount of issues I have with it, but for now, 5 will do. This game has a lot more than 5 issues, but on the whole, these are the things that make my skin crawl more than anything else in this godforsaken lump of plastic. Number 1, Kirsty. Oh my god! Kirsty is nothing but a bitch! Throughout the entirety of the game, all she does is bitch and moan. She whines about absolutely everything you do, criticizing you for not breathing the way she wants you to. But by the end of the game, she acts like, oh, we're best buds. She's like a maths teacher, constantly dishing snarky remarks and then pretending we're gonna go to church together. The only time I'll go to church with you is if you are in a coffin. And even outside of that, she's so boring! She's constantly got something to bitch about, but when she bitches, she doesn't even have anything interesting to say. It's just the same shit over and over and over again. Just because she's always in a pissy mood doesn't make her an interesting character. There's no reason for her to be this way. There's no explanation. She's just hell-bent on making you miserable. So why the hell would I ever want to interact with her? Just look at this part from the beginning of the game. We save her, and immediately she shouts at us and blames everything that just happened on us. She doesn't stop shouting! Listen here, you flat-faced piece of shit. What the f gives you the right to blindly accuse the first person in a 5-mile radius of an atrocity for said atrocity when you didn't even exist to fucking witness it? Is her bitchy attitude supposed to be charming? After all, it is incredibly different from literally any other quote-unquote character in this game, and while that is true, no! This isn't charming, it just makes me want to throw my 3DS in front of a fucking train! Number 2. Off-brand cereal. This game is so fucking bland and uninteresting, it stings. The story takes place across 6 worlds on a world map. This doesn't seem like an immediate problem because Color Splash managed to pull off the world map thing relatively gracefully. It wasn't a great fit for Paper Mario, but Color Splash made the most out of a bad situation. I can respect that. But in that game, it wasn't segmented into worlds. The levels appeared whenever and wherever they damn well pleased, and because of that, they didn't follow the same theme, level after level. What do you think Sticker Star did? Grass World, Desert World, Jungle, Lava, they all follow the same bitch basic themes that the new Super Mario Bros. Series has been doing for almost a decade at that point. And every single level sticks to the world's theme, like their lives fucking depend on it. There's no variation, there's nothing interesting here. They couldn't even be bothered to do something unique within those themes. The most unique thing in any of these levels is a pile of paper waste in the jungle. That's the best this game could do. It's all so dull and bland. Every time I look at these generic ass levels, I damn near fall asleep. It's disgustingly boring, and I don't understand why. The original Paper Mario played on pretty typical themes, but did so in an incredibly engaging way. Why didn't this game do that? Oh wait, I know why. Because it refuses to have characters! Everyone's a fucking toad! Again! And the story is just Bowser kidnapping Peach. It seems like it's building up to something more interesting with the royal stickers, but no, Bowser just kidnapped Peach. But it isn't even made obvious that that's happened until you save her. What the fuck is wrong with this game? Number 3. Malnourishment. This game is so easy, it puts babies to sleep. Every single level passes by with legitimately no effort. Nothing requires you to think, it just requires you to do. There's absolutely no challenge for pretty much the entire game. I'm not the kind of person to not play a game if it's too easy. In fact, on the whole, I actually prefer easier games, but when it becomes mindless, I can't stand it. And that's the best way to describe this game. Mindless. There's nothing to it. You just go around, do what the game tells you to do without having to put any effort into it. And then you carry on with your day. And when combined with the painstakingly bland locations, it makes the game an absolute drag to get through. But to give the game credit, as much as I don't want to, the Enigma Mansion in World 4-3 is actually a pretty creative level. It has fairly interesting set pieces, and it manages to stray even slightly out of the incredibly low baseline set by the rest of the game. It's not much, but it's anything at all, and for that, I appreciate it. I hate to admit it, but I really enjoyed this level. But there's always a caveat, isn't there? So, we have to track down and defeat all of the boos in the mansion, and we manipulate the level by using paperization a lot, which is pretty nifty. But then there's one fight that if you don't have the right sticker for, is incredibly difficult. I got into this fight, and I died, for fuck's sake! That's when I realized I hadn't saved in a while, because there's only one save block in the entire level, so I died and lost almost an hour of progress because I was so ill-prepared for actual challenge, because the rest of the game is so disgustingly easy. And even if I did die in any other levels, they were so short that it didn't fucking matter! There was no reason for that severe of a difficulty spike, and the worst part is, nothing else in the rest of the game did that to me. Nothing before, nothing after, not even anything in the same fucking level. And I know that for a goddamn fact because I had to play through it again. The mansion went from my favorite part of the game to the part that I fucking despised the most because of that bullshit. And speaking of bullshit, the final fight. This fight can fuck right off. It never fucking ends! The fight with Kamek was over in a single turn, even with her flip-flop shit. And that, combined with the fact that there was no other boss fights in the game that were even remotely challenging, makes this fight completely fucking stupid! The difficulty spike is ridiculous. The battle is an absolute clusterfuck. It's constantly throwing random bullshit at you to do anything in its power to stop you from beating the motherfucking game. I hate this fight so much. And what do we do at the end? We save Peach.
Well, that's fucking great, isn't it?
And all of this frustration, all of this anger, does not even begin to compare to the absolute trauma of number fucking 4! I have worms! World 3 is one of the worst things I have ever experienced in a video game. One of. So, there's this Wiggler. He exists, good for him. But a level or two in, all of his segments are separated, and it's our job to find them. So we go into a level, we find one. The Virgin Radar hits sub-zero. But then we beat the stage, and it f***s off. Okay, that's fine, I'll go find another one. But when I find another one, that one f***s off too, son of a bitch! Every single time you find one of these goddamn circles, they run away. They open up a new level, and you have to go hunt them down. Again, we rinse and repeat the same tedious task until we've done so for 12 fucking levels! And the worst part is, this wasn't even a fun thing to do in the first place. I didn't enjoy it the first time around, so you can imagine how much I wanted to waterboard my system by the time it's finally over! This goes on for so long, it's absolutely painful. I genuinely would not be surprised if you told me that this section took up over half of my playtime. It was grueling and not worth doing in the fucking slightest. And that leaves us with only one thing left to discuss. Number 5, the battle system. What do you want me to say, man? No partners, just Mario. The stickers are all you have to use, and you don't even have the added strategy of painting the damn things like in Color Splash. You just use them and feel miserable. It has the same godforsaken system where running away from enemies is the same as defeating them. But it's still incredibly hard to run from battles. In fact, in this game, it's even more difficult. It has a system where, if you mash the A button while running, it increases your odds of escape. And it's like, okay, I appreciate the sentiment, but it barely makes a difference. So what the f*** is even the point? It just makes it even more painful when you can't run, because look at that, I've just been diagnosed with carpal tunnel syndrome, and I'm still being forced to fight this fucking turtle! Misery doesn't even begin to describe battling in this game. Torture comes closer, but it still ain't enough. They took an already shallow experience and removed any chance of it being anything other than abysmal by making you suffer through something this catastrophically bad for the majority of the experience. God fucking damn it! I couldn't find a single thing that ended up salvaging this game in the end. I know I had a few things to give it credit for, but none of that matters when stacked against the atrocity of the rest of the game. It honestly begins to feel like the good stuff was implemented by accident. Oh god, they didn't mean to! And I think the worst part about all of the things I've just talked about is that the game had the potential to be so much more. Bullshit describes this game and that sentence. But really, look at these screenshots of the game from E3 2010. There's partners, there's interesting worlds, there's a battle system that's just like the first two games. But they threw it all away. I think if they kept this stuff in, fleshed out the sticker mechanics to make them even somewhat worth a damn, and refined the combat from the first two games, this could have been a wonderful experience. But instead, they were much more content with sticking to the most god-awful, bland, and honestly unappealing video games that I've ever seen for seemingly no reason, and then turning a blind eye to all of the backlash that it got. This game pisses me off more than any other, hands down. It infuriates me to my very core, because once again, it could have been a great new entry in one of my favorite series. But they went out of their way to make sure that it was nothing more than a stripped down shadow of the games that came before it. Well, this is quite possibly one of the worst games I've ever played. It took a series that I absolutely adore and just ripped away everything that makes it good. I don't generally like to say this with games. I like to try and stay as positive as I can, and if I'm critical, I want it to be constructive. But I hate this game with every morsel of my being! So I need to end this.
I have dealt with enough trauma from you, and the last thing I want is for you to cause misery for anybody else. It's time for me to finish what I started. This game is a nightmare! You son of a bitch! Oh, shit!
What the hell's the game plan here?
You may be one of the worst games I've ever played, but that doesn't mean I won't overcome you. You are a mistake that never should have happened. But in times like this, sometimes you have to fight fire with fire! This ends now! That's how you know a game's bad. When Chibi Robo Ziplash is the only thing that can save you from it.